All right. Hello, I'm Eugene Marshall of Arcanist Press and Sigil Entertainment, and this is Sigil Spotlight. We are a diverse community of tabletop industry game creators spotlighting each other's work. Now, this session, we're playing Clockwork Run by Gabrielle Harbowy. We will see character art by Kelly Perry and Roberto Pituru. This adventure is based on a novel that Gabrielle wrote titled Gears of Faith. It's a Pathfinder tale. We'll see the cover illustration here. Let me go ahead and move us to that screen here. Here's the lovely cover, as well as there's the actual cover as you see it in the book, and then you've got this wraparound illustration here is the larger version, which is kind of awesome, and that is by Remco Troost. So this is a Pathfinder Tales book, so thanks to Paizo Entertainment for their community use guidelines. Speaking of thanking, I'd also like to thank Sigil Entertainment for supporting the stream and providing our graphics and overlays. Roll20 for providing us a virtual tabletop to use, as well as Wizards of the Coast for the rules, and our own creators for making tonight's fun possible. To make sure it stays fun, we are employing safety tools, so thanks to Brebo Sheldon, Lauren Bryant Monk, Kiana Shaw, and Monty Cook Games for providing those safety tools for us. If you'd like to check the notes below the stream, you'll find a couple links. One, to Paizo's store, where you can buy this book, Years of Faith. It's on sale right now, right? For $3.50, $3.95? Something remarkably low.
$3.75.
$3.75, there you go.
For the paperback.
So that's a great deal. So go check that out via the link. There's a second link if you prefer your books in e-format. And there's also a links to the safety tool information if you're interested in that as well. So let's get to know our players and characters. So as I said, I'm Eugene Marshall. My pronouns are he, him, or they, them. I am co-owner of Arcanist Press and lead game designer for Sigil Entertainment, and I am the GM tonight. So let's go ahead and go around the overlay. Tell me and the audience your names, pronouns, what you do in the world of tabletop gaming, and then your character. Let's start with tonight's author, Gabrielle. Tell us about yourself and Dusk.
Hi, so I'm Gabrielle Harbowy. I'm a professional copy editor, proofreader of fantasy science fiction. I've also written 3 novels and a bunch of short stories, and 2 D&D adventures now, and a Pathfinder Society adventure. So this is my novel, Gears of Faith. We're using basically a setting from the novel for this adventure, just for fun, just to write something exclusive for Sigil Spotlight, and hopefully it'll be a fun time. The Pathfinder world is huge and vast and has a lot of lore, but the novels each stand alone. You don't need any Pathfinder experience, or you don't need to read any of the other books to get it. It's sword and sorcery and super queer and a fun time.
Awesome.
Tonight I have the privilege of being the player, and I'm playing Dusk, a non-binary half-orc rogue. Dusk's pronouns are they, them. My pronouns are she, her.
Fantastic. Well, I look forward to this experience very much. So let's go ahead and go around the circles some more to Bashir.
Hi, I'm Bashir Gauss. I'm a freelance writer and indie RPG game designer. I've had work spotlighted on the show before. Today I'm going to be playing Muthalib, a he/him, a Goliath fighter.
Fantastic. Muthalib, welcome back. And welcome back, Bashir, of course. How about you, Cliff?
Hello, I am Cliff Moore, a editor and content creator for Spilldale Studios. My pronouns are he, him. I will be playing Kahir Ren, goes by Ren, a monk with pirate-like tendencies. Looking to have fun tonight.
Oh, that's right. And I should mention, Ren is developed by Cliff himself. The character subclass is the Way of Endless Tides monk that will be appearing in titles from Spilldale Studios in the future. Isn't that correct, Cliff?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Cool. All right, so Tyler, let's hear about yourself and Smorg.
Yeah, I'm Tyler Clark. I use he, him pronouns. I'm an artist, a freelance artist. I've done work for Sigil, Catalyst, Evil Hat, stuff like that. And I'm playing Smorg Tinsby, the cleric, the grave cleric.
Fantastic. All right, so it is my pleasure to introduce the players and their characters to all of you. So if everyone's ready, without further ado, we shall begin. So, excuse me. So you are all adventurers in the city, and in this city, you happen to know that there is a, let's call it a Tinker's Academy, or an Engineer's Academy, let's call it. An academy of artificers and engineers called the Clockwork Cathedral. It's renowned, and it is an unusual place. And you all know somebody named Zae, Z-A-E, who has invited you to meet her at her local pub, the Duck and Castle, for drinks. She's an acquaintance, and you've adventured with her a few times in the past, you all being seasoned vets, level 5 after all, right? You've been around the block a few times. And Zae was accompanied you, so you're friends and you trust her. Now, she has reached out to you and asked for help. And as you enter, you recognize her by her cascade of blue curls, held back by the well-worn goggles perched on her head. Let's see now. We've got some art for Zae. Let me go ahead and show that. Here you go. So there's Zae. And as I mentioned before, that art is by Kelly Perry. And Zae, you know, is a cleric of the god of clockwork and artifice. And as you can see, she's wearing brown leather, and over her shoulder, or I mean, over her arm, she has a brown, like a long coat as well. And with her is a solidly built human woman with medium dark skin, touching hands with her in comfortable affection. And that is... Is it Karen or Karen? Karen?
It's Karen.
Karen,
Yes.
yeah. All right, so let's show... Here's an image of Karen. She's looks like a doughty warrior here.
Looking much more put together than she does on the cover.
Yeah, right. So yeah, these are also featured on the cover of the album. Oh my gosh, of the novel. Here, there's a nice picture of her up close. I'm zooming it around on my screen so that the folks at home can see up close. So they are together at the Duck and Castle, a place you've frequented in the past, though it's not maybe necessarily your chosen hangout because it's filled with eggheads, right? These are the folks from the academy come over, and this is their hangout. So you're in there, and so as you approach the table, hey, what do you know? There's a third person, let's say, at the place that's worth... I love this picture. So that's their dog, whose name is Apple Slayer, you happen to know. Because that dog slays apples. All right. That also is art by Kelly Perry. The Karen picture is the one by Roberto Petiru. So as you approach, Zae, kind of the dog peeks up and looks around, and the tail starts thumping, and that's actually what lets Zae and Karen know that you're arriving. They turn and look. Oh, hey, you're here. This is Karen Rin. She's a knight of Ozem, and this fluffball is Apple Slayer. So, look, you want to order something? Hey, could you come over here? So the server comes over and it's like, "Oh, what do you have?" And she says, "You can order whatever you like," says Zae. We'll cover it. We're here. You're here, doing us a favor. So Karen says, "All right, I'll have an ale." And Zae herself orders a half pint of cider, and then the server looks at you all. So first, why don't we go ahead and take this moment to tell the audience and each other how you are appointed this evening, what you look like, and then what you'll order for your drink. So what does, let's go in reverse order here. Let's start with Smorg now. And so what's Smorg looking like? What's Smorg going to have for drinking, etc.?
I mean, Smorg likes the hard stuff. So he's going to ask for something that will almost put him on the floor.
All right. So he nods and say, "Ah, yes, we have The dog's hair. It'll do you.
Mm-hmm.
And then turns to Ren and say, "And you, sir, what will you have tonight?"
And Ren is dressed in his, very, very patched over sailor's garb, you know, knee-length breeches that have, seen better days, uh, sort of a vest, but with no shirt underneath. And he has these wave pattern tattoos that crisscross up and down his arms and across his back. And he, before anyone can stop him, he immediately says, "An ale, a very stout one." And everywhere that the party goes, he tries to order ale, even though he's underage. But he's grown up in a pirate haven, and so the rules are a little more lax there.
Oh, that's
so he
right.
tries to run before anyone stops him.
So he's 16 or so. How old is he?
About 16 years old.
I see. So he's an old soul in a young body. I see. Okay. So I think that the server raises an eyebrow skeptically, but Zay is like, "Yeah, you heard the man." He kind of shrugs and says, "Okay, Zay," and then turns to Mutalib. Is there anything what is Mutalib up to, looking like? And if there's anything you'd like to your character to drink.
So, let's see. So I assume, despite the fact that Karen's here or at least her art's in full armor, I assume we're in like formal wear rather than adventuring gear.
Well, she did hire you. She did call you to the tavern for a job, so you might have at least brought it with you. I'll leave it to your choice. It is a little odd to just go wandering around in plate, but if we'd like that to be the case, I mean, it's your choice. You'll have access to it.
It fits better for Mutalib has gone pretty far out in terms of like he's going for full on like North Indian formal wear. So he's got a red sherwani and there's elaborate filigree along the sides, and he's everything's scaled up because he's a Goliath and like 7.5 feet tall or something like that. But it's generally very much noble wear, as it were.
Right,
rather than the more casual stuff that say Ren has.
Right. So kind of an odd user, kind of a contrast there between Ren and Mutalib. And so the server asks, "Is there anything you'd like to eat or drink? We have a full menu here at the Duck and Castle. I might recommend, for example, the duck. We are named after it."
I'll pass, thank you.
Oh, very well. And then finally to Dusk, the server turns and says, "And how about you? What would you like to drink or eat?"
Dusk is wiry, probably slighter than most half-orcs people have seen, and bald, and wearing very comfortable leather armor that they don't really wear like armor, they just wear it like clothes. So it's hard to tell if they're being casual or if they're being ready for battle. They're not visibly armed, but it's a rogue, who can say? And Dusk looks at Zay and considers and says, "Cider sounds good."
All right.
Cider.
So the server nods and walks off, and then Zay turns to you all and says, "So as you know, I attend the Clockwork Cathedral. Now, it's not really a church, actually. Maybe you didn't know this. You all knew this. It's a university, like for tinkers, engineers like me. So we've got all these specialties, as they call them cognates. I'm, for example, in the cognate Alive and Ticking, and so I make healing devices, right? You knew that about me already. You had traveled with her. She's an artificer and has healed a few of you more than once after a rough combat. She says, "Well, my friend, Danachek, he's in Steel Singers. The Steel Singers automate music. So he's in trouble. And, he's a good friend of mine. kind of owe him. He foolishly took a book out of the mage library to help him with some project he's working on, which, would be fine, you'd think, but the mage library has like really strict rules about people taking books off premises. And so he got caught, and now he's suspended. And they've told him that he can't return until the book is returned. The problem, of course, he can't go back into the school, and they won't let him in until they return the book. So, and then Karen's like, let me guess, the book's in the building somewhere. Yeah, exactly. And, I'd sneak in myself and get it. I mean, I can get into the school, and I could maybe find where he hid it, but if I get caught, I get suspended too, and I need this. I can't be kicked out of the university. Here's the thing, though. If somebody who isn't a student goes in, they just eject you from the building. There's no consequence beyond that. So were you to go in and find it for us, right, you'd save us both the risk of, well, me the risk, and poor Danachek actually the fact of being expelled. And Karen sitting there says, hey, as much as I sympathize, if I got caught up in this one, I don't think my patron would understand. It is against the rules, after all. Now, you might recognize that Karen's heraldry on her armor signifies that she is. Oh yeah, and actually, Zay actually mentioned that Karen serves is a knight of Ozem, and so you would know that means that she serves a goddess of order and justice, right? And so she could return the book to the library once it's been located, but she, and Zay agrees, suspect that there might be things that would be required in order to get in and find the book that might require her to violate her oath. So she's not comfortable doing it, and Zay's not comfortable asking. You can that's pretty, again, if your characters would know a little bit about Ozem, having spent some time in this city recently. So Zay turns to you all and says, so would you help? Look, if you help, I'm happy to refill your cups, let you have pay for a night if you need to sleep after all of this is over, pay for your meal once, it gets a little later and you get hungry perhaps, whatever you like, and I'll tell you everything you need to know. And then Karen says, maybe, she says to you, you should listen first before you say yes. You'll need to know about this cathedral. It's, from what I've heard, yeah. So, Zay says, so what do you think? Can you help me out for old time's sake?
What is it that we need to hear about this cathedral exactly?
Well, I mean, it's unusual, right? So here's the thing. The Clockwork Cathedral, I got a theory about this, Zay says. I actually don't think it was built by people. Not living ones, not biological ones. I think it was built by constructs or something, because there's nowhere to sit. There's no privies. It's not built for human or humanoid use. So that's kind of weird. What's more, the thing is like a great machine. So the hallways and doorways actually pass through areas where there are great gears that turn. So the gears turn on a schedule that I haven't figured out yet. I've only figured out a few of the doors, but that's just because I've only been there for a little while. I'm more of a novice than an adept at the cathedral. So the instructors, they know the schedules of most of the gears, but I don't think anybody knows the schedules of all of them. The problem is that these gears, some of them turn quickly, and some of them turn slowly. So you might enter a room, hear a click, 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 click behind you, and then a gigantic gear has blocked the door. And it might leave you blocked in there for like a day. So it's possible you'd want to bring some rations and water. No one's ever died in there from just being trapped by the gears or anything, but as far as I know. But, you might get uncomfortable having to sit in a room for 6 hours waiting for the gears to turn, or, a day or two. But that's really the worst thing about it. Most of the other, all of the hey, I can vouch that all of the other novices and adepts in my cognate, right, Alive and Ticking, are wonderful people. Now, I can't speak for all of the other cognates. There's a lot of other areas of specialty, and some are more, let's say, mercurial than others. So, I mean, we're scientists, we're engineers. It happens, right? See, it's not so bad.
So Ren leans back in his chair with like one leg over the arm, you know, in his best impression of an adult drinking in a bar with their friends. And he says, and, you know, he kind of scratches a completely just not even peach fuzz, clean shaven chin. He says, you want us to break into a church that's a school that's a cuckoo clock for books.
I mean, yeah, that's about sums it up, except I wouldn't say it's breaking in exactly. Like, you're not going to, just walking in the hallways isn't against the law. I mean, it is a university. But, you know, it's an unusual place. Strange things happen. Every room you enter, it's possible you'll be walking in on somebody's ongoing experiment. And some of those experiments go well, and some of them don't.
So should I be showing up in my formal wear or casual clothing, or is this an armor and sword sort of job?
Well, let's put it this way. I have had to use battle magic a few times in the hallways just because an automaton went out of control, or somebody's chemistry experiment exploded, or there was that time that someone was taking elixirs to try to do well on their tests and they went berserk. And then there were the times somebody opened the plane and she just starts rattling off like disaster after disaster after disaster that are all like byproducts of some scientific experiment that went wrong. You know, then there was the Golem rampage, and then there was the Construct Brigade, and then there was the, you know, and so I get after Karen like puts her hand on Zay's hand, it says, Zay, oh, yes, wear your armor. I don't think you'll need it though. And Karen's like, you'll need it.
Yeah, I feel like this list of incidents, and do correct me if I'm wrong, I do feel like maybe this list of incidents could have gone at the beginning of the job offer, as it were, or the request.
Well, I mean, you got to recognize that I'm describing to you like every bad thing that ever happened in the past 6 months that I was there. I mean, that's like
all of those happened in 6 months.
Oh, well, I mean, that's like, do the math though. That's like only like one every couple days. I mean, you'll run into at most like one of those problems, maybe. And don't forget, and you know what? That's also like what happens across the whole school. You're just going to be going to one place if you can find it.
Ren's like, you had me a free beer. And just...
I mean, I even have a map. It'll be easy. I mean, it's sort of a map.
See, there's a map. She has a map.
Sort of a map?
To be clear, I'm in, but I want you to know how deeply unnerved I am by how often things go wrong here.
It's, you know...
Yeah, that was a poor pitch.
You can't advance our knowledge of engineering and science without taking some risks, folks. It's just like when we went... And then she refers back to one of your previous adventures. Like, you know, it was like that time that we went into the fallen temple and in order to get the artifact, and, you know, well, we knew there was going to be defenders there, but we had to do it anyway, and it was worth it. And then, unfortunately for the rest of you, though, she just cited, like, the adventure that you two did with her that went the poorest. Like, that was the most disastrous of adventures. She's like, see, it was worth it. And look, the map. I have a map. It'll take care of all of your problems. See, look, it's super easy. Just follow this map. And then she pulls out a crumpled piece of paper. I'm going to share it with everybody here. She says, see, it looks like this. That's super easy to follow, right?
Of course she uses graph paper.
You know, it's like yada, yada, yada. You go a little bit down the hallway. There's some paths on the right. On the left, there's the forge and yada, yada, yada. You go past the old cognate and then yada, yada, yada. Make a right, yada, yada, yada. And then it's on the right. There it is. And it's in a room. It's hidden in a table. Off of a hallway. See, it says right there.
How many etc.? How much distance are these etcetras covering here?
I mean, so that represents see, when one draws in the cartographic sciences, the ... the ellipsis, if you will, represents an indeterminate distance. And Karen says that means...
So clearly Danicek wanted to draw a map, but he didn't actually want anybody to find this.
Well, he did want it kept secret. It is hidden. And Karen says, when she says indeterminate, that means she doesn't know. Oh, I haven't been there myself.
I gathered.
Yeah. Zay's like, I haven't been to this room myself. I mean, I don't exactly know where it is.
Can we talk to Danicek and have him give us better directions?
Well, the other problem is that, the whole place is, there's no windows. It's built on purpose to have identical looking corridors. And it's built to be like a maze. Some are long, but some are short. And then there's a bunch of identical doors that, there's workspaces behind them. So it's, it might be a trial and error experience is what I'm saying. But the map should help. I mean, right there, you go up the steps, and then eventually you make a right, and then it's on your right.
So eventually, the map shows 3 intersections, then a right, or the map says the next right after the hallway to the cognate.
Yeah.
Are either of those accurate instructions?
Well, I can help. Okay. When they say cognate, this was Danicek's map, so that means Steel Singer's cognate. See? There you go. I've never been there, but that's where you'd go, I guess. And I don't know how far that way to the Steel Singer, so technically it could be most anywhere. But yeah, I mean, okay, I'm not doing a good job of this. I get that now. I mean, yeah. I can tell you this. The book is titled Breathing Life into Clockwork, Theoretically and Metaphorically. It's by Renwick Greystone. So just find the Renwick Greystone volume. It's about 4 inches thick. I don't know. We'd have to ask. Yeah, you might just have to open some doors, is what I'm telling you. And so that's why I recommended bringing some water and food. And then if you open a door and there's something exploding, just close the door. Or a rampaging golem, that's the wrong room.
And this is why I don't go to school, church, or clocks, because I assume this is standard for all 3.
Well, he was trying to make this like little construct, right? Like a familiar kind of, right? And the idea would be, right? So he's in the Steel Singers, so he's a performer, and this creature would play the instrument while and then he could cast spells through it, and he could perform spells, but still have his hands free for performance or combat. He's gonna create like a whole new school of bardic, a whole new bardic school. I mean, could be a really cool thing. You might, while you're in there, you could also ask some of the instructors or adepts to kind of give you directions. I mean, they're kind of cranky, but I've seen you all be rather persuasive, so that would certainly help as well. Again, I can't do that because then they'd know I was involved in an expellable offense.
Mm-hmm.
So, approximately how many traps per square foot are there?
Oh, traps. I mean, look, the hallways is clear, right? You're not going to run into... Nobody puts bombs and traps in the hallways. It's in the rooms where you get a little dicey. I mean, I guess sometimes things spill out of the rooms or run away from the rooms, but generally speaking, you're not supposed to put traps or obstacles in the hallways. And anyway, you know what? If somebody does, the thumpers clean it up. So...
Do I want to ask what a thumper is?
Oh, the thumpers are, well, they're actually the only regularly functioning, let's call them bots, right? Constructs, mechanical devices that are autonomous, dare I say automatons, that I've seen. That is allegedly like these are, the kind of thing that the great masters at this place can make. Well, the thumpers are these robots that wander the halls and rooms and just clean up, right? So if you, for example, tried to put something to block a door so that the gear wouldn't close, they'd come by and clean it up probably. It might not, maybe not right away, but eventually. And so things don't stay in the hallways for very long. Traps, threats, That's why it's fairly safe to just walk down hallways. The problem is we don't know behind which door that table is.
Well, if there's nothing stopping us from going in, I mean, if we're allowed to be there, then I don't see harm in opening a lot of doors and seeing if maybe we find a book.
Right. I mean, the only thing to watch out for is, like I said, if there's experiments going on. I will say that if you open a room and it doesn't look like the room you're supposed to be in, I wouldn't go like rooting around in it, because a lot of students, and especially in some of the other cognates where they're a little more competitive, we're quite cooperative cognate I'm in, but well, they place traps around their work to keep others from borrowing their supplies or stealing their ideas, right? So just, don't take things that aren't yours.
That would be wrong.
Right. This is easy. Is there anything else you need to know? Well, you won't be able to teleport once you're inside, or teleport into the place, because the whole place is shielded by magic, which is what we can't, like, I can't give you a magical view of the item. I can't use to scry it or anything like that. That's beyond my power anyway. But you don't need light. The whole place is lit unless a student wants the lights off. But there's magical light everywhere. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything else you need to know.
Yeah. I mean, I'm ready to go.
I mean, just, I mean, like I said.
When do we start?
Yeah, I mean, you could go now if you like, because here's another thing. I'm not an instructor or even an adept, really, but I do know the timing of a couple of the gears. And I can tell you that the front door is going to be open for about 3 days. But in about 3 days, it'll close for a few days. So you definitely want to get in and out in that amount of time. But that should be no problem at all. Then once you get in to the foyer, you can get through the next door as well. That's going to be open for quite a while. So that will then get you into the main hall. After that, it's just a matter of finding your way to the right door. I mean, some people say that the interior actually moves when nobody is looking. So it might be that's one reason why Danachek had to write his map with some, let's say, necessary vagueness in it. I can't guarantee that, but yeah. And just remember, though, this is a school, right? So most of the people you encounter are going to just be students. Most of the stuff you encounter is going to be like their homework. So, don't wreck anyone's science experiment, maybe. Karen is like smirking through this whole thing because she thinks it's apparently she thinks it's simultaneously ridiculous but also strangely cute. So she's otherwise just kind of shaking her head.
It's like a library with very complex rules.
Exactly. Just a library. Just a school. Any other questions?
I'm up for it.
Fantastic.
Hey, can we take Apple Slayer? Does he know his way around?
Apple Slayer. That's my baby. No, Apple Slayer doesn't know his way around, unfortunately. He's not that kind of dog. He's more into slaying apples than anything else. No, he's
He's Zay's riding dog.
Yeah,
he gets directions. He's not a herding dog.
Exactly. This is not that kind of work dog. He's more of an ally. In fact, yes, you're right. He does have a saddle. In fact, so he is He's like, well, no, that's how.
If an apple was lost, I bet he could help us find it.
Absolutely. See, if we had known in advance that we'd have to find this book, we just could have put an apple on it, and then it would be there. But alas, Danachek did not know that when he stashed it, he'd get caught. And then, fortunately, they found out when he was away, actually here, at the Ducking Castle. So when they issued the edict against him, he couldn't then enter. Because it's magical. He can't enter the room. He can't physically pass into the building. And I would be magically expelled if I got caught with what they'd see now as stolen property. So you guys, though, they'd just take the book and kick you out. And then they'd have the book back. And then maybe we could try and appeal to get poor Danachek back in. Property returned, after all.
Okay. Well, it's not the craziest thing we've heard say, probably.
Actually, no, strangely enough.
Sure.
All right, well, she then nods and says, oh, good, thank you. I knew I could count on you. See, I told you. And Karen's like, no, I believed you. Yeah, that's great. Good luck, everyone. Bring rations. And with that, you can finish your drinks or get food or whatever, and at your leisure, you can head to the cathedral. It's not far. It's just a few blocks from your location now. Is there anything you want to do before heading there?
Just stock up on rations and water, I guess. We might be there for a while.
Pick up our weapons and other essentials, armors, stuff.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You can stock up on whatever you need. Imagine yourself having 10 days of rations and water and all of your adventuring supplies. Hopefully this is literally just going and picking up a book in a classroom. No problem, right? Sure. It'll be easy. All right. So you head out of the Ducking Castle. You acquire the necessary supplies, he said, waving his hand at such it matters. And the building itself is actually easy to find, as you know, they just give you somebody points you in the right direction, and when you arrive, you see why. You've heard people refer to this place as a mechanical centipede with a clock tower stuck on its back, because that's what it looks like. It's this large looming structure of like Gothic architecture, arches, embellishments, flying buttresses, but there's something undeniably mechanical about it too. Like, you just almost expect it to just get up and start articulating itself across the town with this tower on its back, like an antenna sticking up. In fact, I guess you can't really see it in this image, the cover image, but I guess is that it in the background, you think?
No, that's one of the temples.
Okay. That also has a
No,
tower.
there is no existing art of it.
Oh.
Which would make an interesting project, but
Right, yeah, a giant artificer's university that looks like a giant centipede with a clock tower. I love it. And of course, a bunch of visible gears all over the clock tower, and probably intermittently dispersed across its marble form. All right, so you head up to it, and there's these wide stone steps leading up to a front gate, a magnificent arch, wrought iron gears across the top, right? You walk in through the gate, and there's a soaring ceiling, and it's all solid marble, and it's that kind of thing where if you're in a big marble hall, it's like both really quiet but also weirdly echoingly loud as you step click, 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 off across the floor. It definitely has that like muted hush as you enter this wide main hallway, like a museum or something. And there's these display boxes all along the sides. So you kind of walk through this big giant archway door that stands open, and there's these glass cases just lining this massive hall. It goes this way, right? And each of these cases is like showcasing student work, right? So, you look to the left and you see there's this little clockwork bird that's just flying around in a circle inside this large glass case. And then to the right, there's like a clock, but it's got like 6 different faces on it recording different times, right? And then you go a little further in and there's a little clockwork cat that's chasing a clockwork mouse. And you go a little further in and you've got, all of these. And then many of the things you look at and you're like, I don't know what that is. It's just something's moving. it does a thing. You know, you have no idea what that is, but there's just little clockwork motion and articulation happening all around you. Some of them stand still, waiting to be activated. You guess, just gazing at you through metallic eyes. So after about 30 or 40 feet, you passed all of this great hall full of displays. The great hall ends in a narrow regular hallway, which is not insignificant in size. It's 30 feet across or something. You start to see a regular series of corridors. So as you go down this main hall, smaller halls start coming off each side, offset. So there's one on the left, you go another 20 feet, there's one on the right, you go another 20 feet, there's one on the left, and down each of these halls, and it reminds you just a little bit like walking down what it might be to walk down the spine of a gigantic centipede, like its legs kind of spitting off and curving away out of sight. And the hallways are all lined with doors, identical, unmarked doors. Once in a while, you see a person moving around. But the thing you notice most is that each of these side corridors, its arch, so it's a stone, this is all stone, so it's a stone arch, has a large gear above it, just sitting there on the wall, like seemingly attached to the wall. But once in a while, you get to a doorway and the gear is, instead of being hovering above the door like a portcullis, it's down. It actually goes, there's a little groove on the ground of the threshold into which this gear rests. And so every once in a while, you're like down, down, up, down, as you walk down these hallways. Okay. So you are in this hallway. Your map indicates that you should probably head in. Well, if you're looking at it literally, if the etc. just means go straight, nothing happens, then there's 2 on the right, 1 on the left. And then you should encounter the cognate hallway and then the hallway to the room. But of course, the devil's in the etc., isn't it? So you're not sure about that. So first, before we kind of figure out what happens next, is there any approach you'd like to take? So you're walking down this hallway, main hall, with these smaller halls branching off. You've passed 3 so far, or you can describe yourself doing something as you do so. What would you like to do?
If there's like a passing student or something, I'd like to just ask them for directions to the cognate, because I think that's the closest thing to a landmark we've got.
Okay. Yeah, that's definitely, it's not crowded. There's not like, it's like every 5 minutes you see somebody, one person, down a hallway, and usually they're not near you. You might have to call one over or something. So, but you can do that. So I'd say that, a tall, kind of stately, older looking elf approaches you, and, like often happens with elves, even as they age, they still have kind of young features, but there's just like the smallest wrinkle at the side of the eye, just a little gray in the temple, rather distinguished looking, I suppose. And, he says, may I help you? Yeah.
So we could show him the map and the inset room and say, are you familiar with the room configured like this?
Ha ha ha. Well, you must be novices indeed, or perhaps even visitors. You see here, at the university, knowing one's way around the Clockwork Cathedral is a rite of passage, and it is not for me to tell you the shortcuts, just as I would not tell. And he starts going, puts his one arm behind his back and one hand goes up, and he starts to pace around while he's delivering this lecture. And he says, just as, and he cites some ancient hero, just as the great warrior of yore had to learn the hard way, shall we say, through years of grueling training before he could take up the chalice of Og. You too must, and then he just keeps making these references to historical events and figures, all of which had to spend years doing something or other before they got what they wanted. It says, and thus, and he'll go on for some time if you allow him, I cannot just tell you how to find whatever room that is. That is for you to learn. If I were to tell you the schedules of all the gears, I would be doing a great disservice to the students here, who have to learn it for themselves. Good day.
So you haven't seen this room. Okay, thanks.
So
He doesn't know how to get there.
he's beginning to walk away. You got the impression after he went into lecture mode, this was probably an instructor, not a student. So if you'd like to try with a student, you can also try and flag somebody that appears younger down. But however, you are also aware that actually the student body here, based on the people you're seeing around you, probably range across all ages and races, right? So in fact, you don't know Danacek, but you don't even really know like how old that person is, for example. So, all right. So if you'd like, you can flag down a student too. And this one's most probably a student because they're carrying a stack of books and some strange equipment. It looks like tools, maybe tinker's tools, that they're kind of doing this juggling thing, and they're rushing, and they keep kind of almost stumbling, and they're harried looking, they're kind of rushed, and their hair is sticking all up, and they look like they haven't slept enough lately. And so, student. And they are rushing by.
Yeah, I'll walk up on him and offer to help with it, help carry his stuff.
Oh, yeah. Thanks. So thanks, she says. Here, it's this one, and she's gesturing towards one of the closed doors. And she kind of bobbles these like tools and equipment.
I'll get the door for them.
All right. So the door is unlocked, and it's kind of stout wooden door that sits perfectly kind of set in the marble frame, and it opens. And within, you see a kind of cluttered workroom. Right. There's a large table in the middle. There's bits of leather and iron of all sorts of shapes and sizes. Some look like gears and mechanical things. Others look like maybe they would involve they actually look like pieces of armor that would go like the body of something, right? Like its outsides. And in the back, there's a couple racks of various sorts of tools, like calipers and hammers and awls for punching holes and things. And it looks like metalworking tools. So she kind of comes in and just drops, they tumble out of her hands onto this table. And she says, "Oh, I'm just set them here. Thanks.
I point to the armor and I'm like, "Are you a steel singer thingy?"
Do I look like someone who's interested in such trivial things like music? Come on. No, I am not a steel singer. That is not my cognate.
Oh, well, do you happen to know Danacek by any chance?
Let's see if this individual has heard about Danacek's shame. High is likely to know. And the roll is a 71. Oh, Danacek. Didn't he just get expelled for breaking the rules?
Yeah,
I think you should
guy.
probably go. I don't want to get wrapped up in any trouble. I've got an exam coming up. The Bastion cognate does not tolerate, anything really. So I need to make sure that, my barricades here are built properly. So if you can please, you could go. That would be great. I mean, thanks for the door though. So
are you sure? They're not even okay with tiny pranks, nothing like that.
So go ahead and make a persuasion check to see if you can't charm this individual into at least not kicking you out right now.
Okay.
18. Okay.
Ooh.
Tiny prank? Oh, is that all it was? I heard that they desecrated the mage's library. Oh, well, now that I think
he did do that.
Oh, he did, because
we're here to prank him. We're supposed to leave a special package in his room, and we just don't know where it is.
Oh, okay. I see what you mean. Yeah. Okay, well, I'm really not very fond of vindictive pranks, but if he did desecrate the mage library, that's an awful thing. All right, so you just as far as I know, I'd have never been to the Steel Singer Cognate. I'm only a novice myself. But you do go down the hall about, let's see, 1, 2, and then she starts doing like a mnemonic device in her head. She's like reciting a children's rhyme. Bitsy, my mother told me to. Yes, you go down 12 hallways, and then you're in the area. Don't go down one of those first 12 hallways. It's after that. Probably maybe the next 5 or 6. But I don't know.
Can we have listened in on the mnemonic device to try to pick up on it?
Sure, do a perception check, because she was muttering under her breath. But yeah, that's fine. You only caught part of it. It was something like, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, catch a griffin by its toe. You know, and then something about it flying away, you'll pay. Something her mother told her to do. You know, you didn't catch the rest of it.
Ren's got the whole thing.
So at this point, she's like, so yeah, good luck with that, I guess. And she picks up like some calipers and a piece of curved iron, and like is looking around. She goes over to like a very small forge and starts putting kindling into it. It's like, I've got to work. Can you please close the door?
All right. As we leave, I'm like, oh, by the way, there's a pop quiz tomorrow. Watch
what? It. And then the door closes.
And then I just close it.
Yeah. Oh no. So, all right. So you're back in the hallway, and the impression she gave you was to just go. It's, you've got to walk a few hundred yards down this hallway before you're in the area where the Steel Singers allegedly have their cognate. That's their, if you, in Harry Potter terms, that'd be like, it's like, you're in the wrong tower. This is Hufflepuff. You need Gryffindor. They're over there. That sort of directions have been given, right? Or this is the physics department. You need chemistry. You got to go to the next floor, or whatnot. This is near and dear to my heart. I am a college professor in my day job, so I've had this conversation with many people. Like, can you tell me where yeah, it's done, Oh, I thought
so maybe we're a little closer than we were.
Yeah. So you're basically going to find like the wing of the building where it is, right? So that will definitely help you avoid endless wandering, which you're kind of in a position where you might have had. I mean, you'd already gone 2 or 3 hallways and seen like 30 doors. So you're like, woof, this is going to be a while. It's like going door to door, 100 times. But this way you can skip the first like third of the building. So I assume you follow the instructions. Are you going to believe her?
Identical still?
Yeah. Well, no, because some of them have gears down. Some have gears up. So that's one way you can kind of calculate. You can say like, okay, up, down, this one's down, right? That sort of thing. So that's one way you could kind of come up with it. But I will say, as you look down, you can see that the hallways are not simple straight. You see that there are further intersections if you head in other directions as well. So it's not just literally a single spine with cross hallways. It's more like a web of hallways. But there's this main artery you're in right now. And she suggested you head up 12 hallways, and then you'll be in the ballpark. Maybe that's the et cetera. You don't know.
So we go 12 to 15 and then turn right and start opening doors.
And Ren's been reciting like his version of the nursery rhyme the whole time. So it's like 1 flump, 2 flumps.
All right.
There was some slime in there somewhere.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So, all right. So you had like 12 in. So you counting 1, 2, 3, 4. You pass a student. 5, 6. Oh, and as you're walking past one of them, suddenly the gear rumbles and rises. So and it turns. It irises up. Like it's turning. Some sort of mechanism built into the walls is slowly pivoting this gear up and out of the way of the door. And right behind it are like 6 students that are like, and they rush forward. They've been waiting for some time probably behind that thing. And then they just like scatter because they've got places to be. Several of them look hungry and thirsty. So all of them look young, probably novices that haven't learned the schedule yet. You go another couple hallways down, and you're in the ballpark of where she said. You see now that the hallway has begun to narrow, right? So it's now resembling more like, through some of the intersections, like the hall on the far side of the intersection is just inset a little bit. That's happened a couple times. So now the hallway is only about 20 feet wide, and the hallways branching off of it are like 10 feet wide. And at this point, you get to what you think is, you hear the sound of music, and it's coming from a hallway on the left. And then about 10, 15 feet further, there's a hallway on the right. And all of these are unmarked. Or the hallway continues straight.
Yeah, so Ren's been going through this nursery rhyme, and then with the music on the left, and he's like, see, yeah, 5 flumps, and then veers right.
All right. So on the assumption that the music is coming from the Steel Singer's cognate, which the map suggests was supposed to be on the left, you find yourself in one of the narrower hallways, and there's just doors. So this is the small second etc. on the map. I don't know if you have that. Let me show it to you again. There it is. Mm-hmm. So you've started at the stairs at the bottom, and you've gone up and in, and you maybe have made it to the cognate on the left where you made right. If you're right if Ren is right that music was coming from the Steel Singer's cognate, you are now in the smaller hallway that has an etc. mark. But the problem here is that you're just looking at a hallway with like 30 doors.
You know what? Let's just go down and open all these doors one at a time. We have no other identifying features on this room besides it has a table in it.
We should skip
and
one.
And it probably isn't the first one.
All right. So
all the doors are unadorned.
Yeah, I mean,
nothing, no markings or anything.
Same situation. Gears. So there's a gears above each of them, and some of them are down and some are up. Some of the door. Once in a while, you see a doorway that's open. You see a student come and go, but it's pretty desolate and absolutely unmarked. And yeah, another thing you've noticed: there's nothing in any of these hallways. Like, it's just empty corridors. There's no benches. There's no art. There's no plants. There's no dust. Nothing.
So we haven't seen anything that we could describe as a thumper yet, right?
Well, you've only seen people and the things they're carrying and these big gears and doors. It's really been an austere environment. No I mean, you saw the things out front in the cases, but since then, nope.
Ren turns to the group and he says, Zay did mention that Danacek makes music that is used for battle or combat purposes, so look for exploding instruments, I guess. Does that... Yes. Exploding instruments. And he starts to talk himself into it.
So I'm imagining you guys have entered the hallway. You're maybe passing the first few doors, or you want to open all of them. But you're standing out there as Ren says this, and then you hear a high-pitched whine, a mechanical sound that's unfamiliar to most of you, probably like a ring. And then all of a sudden you hear a zing, like a ring, and then there's a thunk, and then somebody screams in pain behind one of the doors that's maybe 2 doors down on the right.
I think we're getting closer.
I'm going to open that door.
Okay. You open the door.
Where that someone just screamed behind.
And you see, you see a bald human with dark skin and very fine features, wearing a dark brown suede pants and jacket with a white shirt. And he's holding his hand in such a way that suggests he's injured himself, because there's this blood running all down his arm and kind of wetting his this suede jacket, and he's got splatters of it on his white, soft white shirt, and he is like doing one of those, like he's just had a serious injury, and he's standing in front of a table full of mechanical tools, one of which has a circular serrated blade in it that has a marking of blood on it. He says, he's distracted, or they're distracted. You're not actually sure of their gender identity. What would you like to do?
Well, I'll walk in.
Do you require assistance, sir?
Yeah.
All right, so Smorg walks in, and Mutalib asks if assistance is needed, and they say, "Oh yeah, that would be nice, thank you." And they hold up their hand, and there's just this nasty cut right across it. I mean, it looks pretty bad. So, if somebody would like to help, that would be a wisdom medicine check.
Yeah, I can try to do that.
21. Look at that. All right.
Whoa.
So Smorg, do you Smorg is a grave cleric. Okay, so this is actually up your alley. So you have some experience dealing with grave injuries. See what I did there? But so is this, you're just going to, so it looks like this is a very bad wound, but if properly treated, no limbs have been removed. They might not have full use of their hand afterwards unless magical healing is used, but you can certainly bandage it if you like.
I'll attempt to use would a cure wounds be appropriate?
That would help for sure. That would actually probably be a big help. The difference between getting to use that hand again or not.
Not one of those.
Unless, of course, one of the members of the Alive and Ticking were to come by. All right. So, Smorg, is this like a glow comes out of your hands, or do you pray to a god of death? Or
yeah. Oh wait, there aren't any chairs, so we just sit on the floor and I grab his hand while somebody else talks to him or something.
Right. So yeah, he kind of they actually kneels down and says, "Thank you." And then the light comes out of your hand. The wound, the depths of it, you can see seal up, like there was torn ligaments and bone that re-knit. And there's still a jagged wound on the flesh, but it's much more of a flesh wound now. And they say, it still hurts a lot, but it's not aching like it was before. That felt bad. Now, thank you. I'm Leo. I was working after hours. I've got this Time Tellers project. Thanks so much for that. I mean, I don't know if I would have been able to finish my project. I don't know if I'd ever have been able to work on a clock again, but now I can. I owe you one. And so they are going about bandaging up their hand a little bit more. They're kind of trying to clean up the splattered blood. So is there anything I can do to help you? You're not in Time Tellers, Cognate?
We're actually looking for this one room.
Oh, well, which room?
So we show them the map.
The map's a little vague.
Yeah, but
Only
might have different
it's got a
layouts. Who
table.
knows?
They look at it and they say, "You call this a map? This is useless."
Yeah, we're not thrilled about it either.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see.
Map-ish. Map-like.
I mean,
Map
which cognate is being marked here? This isn't the Time Teller's cognate. This wouldn't make any sense. I mean, what's up with etc.? Who puts etc. on a map? I'm getting very irate about this. You should get your money back for this map. All right, well, let me see.
Yeah, that is the issue at hand.
So a room.
This map is exactly worth what we paid for it. What can we say?
Right. So they look at it and they're like, well, I mean, the size and shape of that room on this little inset here, yeah, that's probably further down the hall. if they are even in the right hall, honestly. Because the rooms here in the Time Teller's Cognate look around. And you look, and the room you're in is square. Right? It's roughly the same. They're all square in this section. So you're going to have to go down past the next intersection, right? I think that's the end of the Time Teller's Cognate. I mean, you never know where the instructors are. But yeah, so that's, it's right down there. It's, I don't know, 5 or 6 doors. So it's going to be on the other side.
That's a huge help, actually.
But look, if that's all you need, I mean, that's it. I mean, I can, here, let me, and then they turn specifically to you, Smorg, since you actually did the healing, and say, I want to give you something, because you really saved this is my career here. You might have, I really am grateful. So they turn around and they come back, and there's just a little bitty tin. It looks like it's a little metal tin. It's about this big with a little lid on it. And I mean, it looks like it would have like salted fish inside or something, or tobacco or something. It's like that sort of little tin. And they hand it to you and say, "This, maybe that'll be useful." I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. Be more careful next time with your sharp spinning blades.
Yeah, I mean,
peek in the tin a little bit.
You gotta prime you gotta cut the parts just right so that they can hold the tension inside the clock, so that the amount of force is enough to overcome the inertia of, and then they start talking about the gears inside clocks and how they can build one that runs without needing winding. That's their goal. Their goal is to create a perpetual motion machine clock. That's the final assignment for the Time Tellers at Cognate this year. Yeah,
that just all goes over.
Yeah, the professor assigned it and just kind of laughed and said, "Good luck." I don't know what that's about, but yeah. So I hope that's useful to you. Thanks. I got to clean up some blood. So then they begin mopping up blood. And you have a metal tin, then you shake it or move it around. It sounds. You don't hear anything moving around inside. It sounds empty.
I'm gonna be pretty cautious, and I'm just gonna hand it to Matalib and say, "Take a look."
I'm gonna step outside the room and open it up and look inside. Just get my face right up to it.
You open it up, and you're blinded for a moment because there's a bright light inside. You're like, "Oh!" It's like turning on a flashlight that points right in your face. And then you kind of move your face away, and your hand naturally jerks away a little bit, and there's just light emanating from it. And such that if you put the lid back on, it's dark. You pop the lid off, and there's just light coming out of it, as though someone had cast the light spell inside it, but maybe something more permanent than that. So yeah, you've got this is the Clockwork Cathedral's version of a flashlight with a lid on it. There you go. And you've got some directions. So you now know that you have to go past the next intersection. Okay. Heading off that way, you walk down the hallway further, and indeed, 5 or 6 doors down, there is an intersection of a narrow hall running, in a perfect perpendicular to your hallway with a big gear above it. And as you walk under it, there's a rumble directly above your head, and the gear begins to lower. You can get through, but it will seal you off in the hallway beyond.
Why is this place designed like this?
Does it look like there's anything to potentially jam, or are like the gears way too heavy?
Well, the gear is big enough to block a 10-foot wide hallway, and it's probably several inches thick, and it looks to be made of some sort of metal. But, like brass, maybe. But, in fact, it looks a little bit like some of the giant gears in Gabrielle's background, I now realize, in her virtual background, right? So that's kind of like this giant thing is coming down. You might have, you can stick an iron spike or something in the gear to see if you can jam it up. would you like
So
to
Ren will summon some water from like one of the wine skins that he
One
had.
moment, I've got to step out.
Sure, no problem.
Sure. And then he'll form it into ice, and then try to basically jam it into the gear, and then take another length of water, ice, just to see if he can, get it stuck.
Ice is tough. Iron works better. Let's see. Would you like to roll it on what D100 or shall I?
I can.
Okay. So
I
high
like
is good for
ice.
you, but it's going to be, let's say you're going to have to get over 80. Because ice is the kind of thing, that would be tough to block something this heavy, because, normally you put ice in something like this and it turns into crushed ice. Right? That's how you make crushed ice. So, and that's what happens here. Like you jam this in, and you know that the ice you're forming is hard enough to, at a sharp point, pierce armor even, right? But when just put against the weight of two really, really solid, heavy things slowly going downwards, it just grinds it up. It carves into its sides, and then it cracks, and right. The kind of pressure that something needs to just withstand in order to deal a piercing wound versus block a giant gear like this are pretty different. So the ice, you've got ice cubes now, and the gear rests. And I'm assuming, correct me if I'm wrong, that you allowed it to close behind you, or did you want to not get into that hallway?
I think that's happening behind us.
Okay, so you would have had time to step back. It's not coming down so fast that it would, like a trap, not in the one that you'd have to jump out of the way. It's like, oh, here comes, like an elevator door closing or something. You just get out of the way. And so you do. And like an elevator door closing, that inconveniently sometimes, it just closes, and now you're stuck on the side of it that you're on. You turn around, and you see yourself in a hallway. As they responded or reported, everything is clean and clear. There's light. Indirect dim light everywhere here, just magically enchanted. There's always light indirectly shining in every place, so it's not like you're dark, but you look down at another hallway that kind of curves around out of sight, and you see another row of doors on each side, and you now find yourself you now find yourself in this long hallway. Now, one thing you do notice is that just a little bit farther up the hallway on the left, there's a doorway that has an open door, like the door is open. So that's about 10 feet up on the left. On the right, another 15 feet, there's a closed door. But that you haven't seen many open doors here. This one's just hanging open.
Well, we might as well peek in, but we're pretty sure our target's on the right, if I remember correctly.
Based on the map, yeah. Mm-hmm. So you look in, and it looks like a small storeroom or something. It's pretty empty, but there is a 4-armed metal turnstile in the middle of the floor, right? Like there's just this metal pole, round metal pole, and then there's like this big X on the top of it, right, of metal. Like maybe something you'd see outside of a tavern to tie your horses to, but as you get in, you can see that it looks mechanical somehow. Or as you come up to the doorway and look in, it looks mechanical. So the room seems to be largely empty. It's also, the room is circular, right? So it's a circular room, just with this weird turnstile in the middle of it.
And you said there's nothing attached to the turnstile?
No, it's just sticking out of the floor. The pole just sticks up, and then there's this thing that's flat, sticks out like a plus or an X or a T.
Well, I was gonna say we shouldn't mess with anything, but there are 4 of us. It's got 4 pegs. I feel like this is fate. I feel like we gotta turn it.
You make a convincing argument.
I feel like this is a terrible idea. That said, I am going to go with it.
I would like to check this thing for traps first.
Okay.
Since that's my job.
Yes, go ahead and make an investigation check, and you can examine this. Because as you enter the room's quiet, and it's empty. It's like nothing you've ever seen, right? So you've never checked a turnstile for traps, maybe? This isn't a doorway. It isn't a lock, right? So it's not even, you're not even sure how you would trap something like this, right? But as you examine it, you can tell that it would probably turn freely. So if you grab the turnstiles and push, it would turn. It seems pretty obvious.
As long as we don't turn it and it explodes, that's fine.
All right.
And is the turnstile kind of tall, or?
No, it's about waist high.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, maybe you're a little bit higher, like belly, so you could lean on it even if you wanted. And so you're gonna give it a spin, huh?
Yeah, take my place.
All right. So
Sure.
as you slot into place and start turning it, there is it spins freely, and you walk in a circle. You keep walking in a circle. You notice that something seems to be moving in the room. You're not sure what it is at first, and so you keep walking, and then you realize, wait a minute, the room is moving. The walls are slowly, and you think maybe you're lowering this platform, and then there starts to be a click, click, and the floor begins to unfold around you, lowering in steps. You have just kind of
Wait, we need to be up on the previous floor.
You have what you're unwinding is a spiral stair. So you have it starts to lower, but then the floor stops, and then the stairs just start lowering. It's like the part of the floor, the circle in the middle, that needs to lower in order to make a spiral stair, keeps lowering, leaving steps behind. So if you keep turning it until finally it locks into place, you look down and you've just created a spiral stair, like 3/4 of the way of a circle around. You're still up top. You look up and there's 3 steps up to the open door out that have now kind of like emerged. So this whole room spun in a clockwork pattern that revealed this hidden spiral stair going down to a room below this one.
So this is where the golem eats us?
It could be the Golem cafeteria. I can't guarantee it's not. It is quiet down there. That's all I can tell you.
Now, I know we promised Zay that we wouldn't take anything. But, and hear me out here, but I would like to take something.
We should probably not rob the library.
I mean,
So I'm just going to wait upstairs, and if you have more things than you had before we got in here, I don't need to know.
See?
And with all the heads upstairs.
All right. So you can kind of step away from the spiral stair towards the entrance. There's a short stair that goes up and out back to the hallway you were in. What about the rest of you? Up or out or down?
And Ren says, I'm just going to take a quick look. If you hear me scream, please come get me, because I don't want to die.
I'm going to go keep an eye on Ren. Not that I don't trust him. I just, want to make sure I'm there if he has to scream.
All right. So what about you, Smorg?
Should we tie a rope around you or something, Ren?
Yes, actually.
I'll sit up at the top of the staircase with a rope.
All right.
And we'll like we're diving or something.
So a rope, let's say, fashioned around your waist, Ren, that Smorg holds, and you and Dusk descend. You walk down the stairs, and they're remarkably smooth, well-cut stone stairs. So some mechanism beneath the stone has lowered the stone in stepwise fashion. And you curve around until you're looking directly up at Smorg above you, holding the rope. And in front of you is a doorway. And beyond is a large room, easily 3 times the size of the room above you. And there's all kinds of stuff in this room. It looks very cluttered, jam-packed, in fact. It is a weird, it's dimly lit, just like everywhere else, but it is just a mishmash miscellany of stuff. You see Mostly what you see looks like personal effects of people. Like, here's a single shoe. Here's a stack of notebooks. Here's someone's lunch pail. Here's a jacket. Here's a backpack. Here's a set of tinker's tools missing several of its pieces. Here's a random hammer. Here is a partially constructed construct, almost like a lost and found. Now, lining the wall, however, are these inert, you think, very large, metallic, quasi-humanoid creatures. They're wide, they're rounded shouldered, they don't really have a head. They look kind of like a dome top with these large forearms that hang limply onto the floor next to their short, very broad legs. So these legs are like 2 feet across each, and there's these heavy, metallic, flat feet on the bottoms of these things. And so these 4 spindly arms look like utility arms, and these big, heavy legs and weird domed body sits leaning against the wall. You imagine they'd be quite loud were they to walk slowly through one of these hallways.
And Ren turns to Dusk, and then he gestures at the room and like, see, they've got more stuff than sense. Hey, look at this. This is just, it's careless is what it is. And, I certainly won't, and he's basically casing the place as he's mumbling about how people are just leaving things here where someone may happen upon them and then walk away with them.
So there is all kinds of miscellaneous stuff in here. You find the occasional gem, probably used as an ingredient or a focal point or something for some bit of equipment or magic. You find a healing kit. You find personal hygiene and style items like hairbrushes and gel and weird perfumes. You find quite a few books, but none of them seem to match the description or title or author that you were sent here for. There's even a couple pieces of armor. There's all kinds of clothing. There's, a cracked mirror. There's a brooch. There's an earring. There's all kinds of stuff in here. There are even a few things that are probably of value. You could probably put together from a few of the more refined knickknacks of silver and gold, as well as the few gems and coins here and there. You could probably put together 100 gold worth of lost and found items. And at the back, as you kind of like case the joint, there is a long, narrow hall that leaves the room. It looks like it's just wide enough for those large, inert bots that you see leaning against the wall to walk down.
And Ren almost like starts to hyperventilate after a while at just everything here, but okay, all right. So, and he's speaking out loud to Dusk, but to himself. He says, so, we're here for a book. There's books. And I'm not really a reading guy. That's not my thing. But if I take a book and some gems, and then we just take it all back with us, and then we let Zay sort through it. And I mean, you get what I'm saying, right? And he's not making any sense whatsoever. It's just this complete ad hoc justification for larceny. So
Dusk picks up one of the gems, like a rough, uncut emerald, and holds it up so that Ren can see it, and then prestidigitates with sleight of hand, and it's gone. And that's their comment on the matter.
And Ren's like, and that's why we're friends. And then he just starts putting things in the threadbare pockets.
Yep, you've got a gold inlaid toothbrush. You've got a silver hand mirror. You've got a few minor gems. You've got a brooch with a carving of somebody's grandmother. You've got, all kinds of stuff jammed in here. And there's also mechanical equipment as well, but that mostly doesn't probably look of immediate value to you outside of a certain narrow select audience, namely the students here.
Yeah, so anything that looks too intelligent or having to do with hygiene, he just sort of chucks somewhere else.
Like,
But
what's this tiny brush for? What is this little thing? It's like this big. What do you brush with this? A pixie's hair? Heck with that thing.
Don't want to know.
he runs out of pocket space. He like just jams stuff into the shock of hair on his head, and then when he's sated for the most part, starts heading back up the stairs.
All right. So, and Dusk, you're going to take a few things as well, or?
Yes, but I'm going to wait until he turns to go back up the stairs.
Okay.
So that he doesn't see me do it.
Oh, he turns and heads back up, and then you help yourself.
And then yoink. Yeah.
All right. So, very well. So you take some of the things of yourself for yourself as well, and you head back up. Smorg, as you're waiting, as well as you, Mutalib. So you hear them rummaging around in there, and you're like, oh boy, yeah. So eventually, Smorg, you see them starting to come up, and they, Ren has like pockets stuffed, and you hear him like as he walks, just stuff's like sloshing around in his pockets, all this metal jingling and jangling. He's got stuff shoved in his hair, and you're like, okay, this is gonna be this kind of thing. So outside, however, Mutalib, you are standing in the hallway, like, biding your time patiently, when a sound draws your attention. A door kind of it's like flies open, and a student rushes out of the room and says, "Help! Help! Help!"
What's wrong?
You see a young, kind of clean-shaven dwarf with short black hair, and he's backing away from something he's backing out into the hallway, like he's terrified of something. He's about 30 feet from you as he backs slowly away from whatever it is that he sees inside that room. What would you like to do?
I sigh
Mutalib?
and I head over to see what we're dealing with.
All right. So all of you actually hear this, though for Dusk, as you're just coming up the stairs, and Ren as well, it's a little more muffled because it's up the stairs and out in the hallway down the hall, but there's open doors the whole way, so you can hear this shouting. Smorg, you turn and hear it, and you see Mutalib kind of and head over, start to walk out of sight for you. So you guys would be able to join in a moment, should you choose. So Mutalib, you walk, and as you do, the young dwarf gets all the way across the hallway, and he gets his back against the hall, and out of the room comes a man-sized, like a medium-sized, four-legged, lumbering, metallic monster that looks like a giant flaking tick. It is a giant thing. It looks very roughly like a metallic version of one of these. I'll go ahead and show. So try not to read too much of the text. Cheater. Don't be a cheater. It's looking kind of like that.
Oh boy.
But it's metallic. And it's got these strange metallic antennas with little kind of feathered metal filigrees on it, right? And it's this carapace is like as it walks out of this thing, and it's this dwarf is like backing up, and there's another student that was walking down the hall holding books that's now like and backs, like cowers against the back wall.
Why is there a Clockwork Rust monster? Why would you make this? You know how much these things suck to fight in my profession? I need metal. Why would you make one of these out of metal?
It's a recycling project. It just didn't turn out right. We had all this waste wreckage from the Tinker's College. We thought we could get rid of it. This would be like a Thumper Plus, It's the metal cleanup model. He's saying this as he's slowly backing away, and this creature is not like lunging at this dwarf in any vicious sort of way, but is heading at it. And now it's all the way out, and this dwarf is backing away and is now almost even to you, Mutalib. And this creature is about 30 feet away from you now, and it's turning and walking your way, following this dwarf.
Why is it rampaging? Who approved this?
Oh, It doesn't take I put the cards in to make it do it doesn't work. I think there's an error. And then he stops in the middle of all this chaos. And he's like, oh, wait a minute. There might be an error in my design. Let's see now.
Yeah, you made a rust monster out of metal. There's your error.
No, it would have been brilliant. You haven't seen the lower levels. There's just piles and piles and piles of broken prototypes. Every year, hundreds of students make junk. It has to go somewhere, so they file it in the vaults, they call it. Well, those could be reclaimed spaces. Oh, he suddenly realizes that this creature's a lot closer, and he shuts up and he runs down the hall. He's now at the door where you are standing, Smorg. So all of you are now back up in the turnstile room, and you see a scared dwarf is like, oh my, this thing, I can't control it. I made it, but it's not listening. It's not taking my orders. I programmed the panel in, and it isn't working. It'll help. I'm gonna get an F. And so Mutalib, this creature is now 10 feet away from you. What would you like to do? So now everyone's gonna be involved in this, but Mutalib, you're gonna go first. I don't think we don't need to do initiative at this moment, but we will kind of work in a quasi-initiative take turns moment. So what does Mutalib do?
How does it work? I'm just trying to yell at this dude to try and figure out how it's meant to work. Does it have a key I can take out? Is there a little hamster in there?
Yeah, no, but if you on its belly, there's a lever.
I'm going to grapple it.
Okay. So go ahead and make a grapple check.
All right.
Oh, strength athletics.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty. It's a medium size. Ooh, good roll. All right, let's see its
and
attempt.
I count as being large size.
Ooh, look at that. Mm-hmm. So, all right. So you let's see. So you have not hit it, but you have grabbed it. So you are within 30 feet of it. You can tell that you're not sure it resembles an ordinary creature, but at this point, now that you're holding on to it, you actually think it might indeed be a mechanism. You can kind of hear a quiet whirring of gears inside of it. Those metal antennas, you're not actually striking it, so it's not hitting you back just yet. But you've kind of slipped aside and gotten a hold of it on its side, and it's starting to resist. So you have a hold of it. You can try and drag it somewhere or move it somewhere, but that's all you're going to get to do for the moment. Would you like to move it somewhere, or do you just want to hang on to it, stop it from moving?
I would like to flip it over, basically, or lift it up off the ground so other people can get at the lever. All
right. So with that strength check and the fact that you are a Goliath and thus are able to lift more than your size, you would be like a large creature grappling a medium creature or lifting a medium creature, which is exactly what you need to be able to be in order to lift this thing up, because it's heavy. This is like one person lifting like a Ford Escort or something, because that's kind of what this thing is like. It's like a Fiat or a Miata, or I'll just name all the small cars. It's a Pinto. So you lift the thing up, but not much. You're just able to get it tilted up on the legs on one side, and the rest of you
yell for someone to pull the lever.
Yeah, you
pull the lever, Smorg.
There's all of these clockwork gears visible underneath it, including more than one lever. There's at least 2 visible levers. Mm-hmm. So at this point, Dusk, Ren, you have kind of come out at the doorway and hallway, and you're seeing this. Smorg, you get to react next because you're closer. You are within 30 feet of Mutalib and this creature. What would you like to do?
I think Smorg's animal instincts are gonna kick in. I don't think he quite knows what it is, so he's gonna try to run over and try to calm it by rubbing its belly and stuff.
Okay, yeah. Go ahead and make an animal handling check. Wow. Okay. So you run up to this and you start rubbing its clockwork belly, and you're getting like gear grease all over your hands as you're smearing it on these turning things. But as you do it, its weird antennas kind of vibrate, and it makes this weird rumbling sound
Oh, it's a kitty.
So Dusk, Ren, you come out and see Mutalib is wrestling a giant metallic tick thing while S'more gives it belly pets. What would you like to do?
Ren rounds the corner and he's got his excuse, ready to go, like kind of head down. And he's like, well, found a lot of books, but it wasn't the right one. And then he looks up and he sees the tick and he's like, what? And then when Mutalib is like, just pull the lever or hit it, Ren goes like running across the distance, but he sloshes like a water jug full of pennies, kind of, waddling back and forth.
You're leaving little trails of coppers as they.
Yeah, and he's got his pants pulled up like he's basically flood water trying to keep himself dry, but it's to keep all the coins and stuff in. And he runs over and he just starts trying to, between the belly pats and the Goliath hug, he's trying to kick at this lever, but like both of them, because he's not sure what to kick at. So he's just kicking at the space between the two.
Go ahead, let's make a dexterity check. Let's say it's acrobatics to squeeze through all of that.
Acrobatics. And he is acrobatic.
All right.
Oh, but not quite.
So I think you kick one of the levers, but not the right lever, apparently, because as you kick it, there's this thunk sound and a panel in the back opens up and like 30 pounds of rust dust just like expels out the back end of this creature. And the dwarf's like, no, not that lever, not that lever. That's the waste removal lever. And so now the whole area is like there's this cloud of rust dust.
Why aren't they labeled?
And like with the clockwork noise and the dust, Ren's like, am I doing it? Did I do it? I'm doing it.
Wrong lever.
So at this time, Dusk, you see that there is another lever that Ren has not managed to kick. And it's in principle maybe what's supposed to happen, but who knows? What would you like to do?
I'm just stopped stunned by the sight here of monster cuddle time. Do what with the lever? What?
The dwarf is like, pull the lever. No, the other lever. The other one.
Did I actually see which lever he kicked, or was his body in the way?
Yeah, you can see that you see a lever or two, but yeah, it looks like one's in one direction and one's in the other direction.
So, which one is it?
You could take a guess. You could make you could do this as a perception check to see whether you saw, or an intelligence check if you want to try and think through it. Let's call it a Arcana check.
I would like to do an acrobatics check and see if I can't flip both of them.
Oh, okay, that'll work.
Because if one of them's right and one of them's wrong,
sure,
that'll get them both.
Yeah, that works actually. So go ahead, and I'll give you advantage for that because that's a clever way to solve the problem. Excellent. All right, so you slide in between the two and use your action to throw one of these switches. One goes in one direction, one goes the other. You're like clunk, and then all of a sudden it stops moving around and kind of weirdly undulating in your arms, Mutalib, and you hear a clunk sound as the panel in back closes, and then you can kind of like slowly rest it back down, and the kind of animation that was slowly causing it to undulate, its face to move around, its antenna to swing, comes to rest. And the dwarf runs up and goes, oh, I can't believe you lifted it up. It's not designed to bear weight that way. You might have warped the chassis. Oh, for goodness sakes. I mean, this is going to take me days of work to fix this. And you probably, you weren't supposed to throw both levers at once. Oh my. And so he's just like fixating on this thing. And then he stops and goes, thanks. That was useful. Now, if you could do me one last favor, I'd be really pleased. It's if you could just help me drag this back into that room, my workshop. I'll pay you. in something brilliant that I made. It's a prototype, one of a kind.
Does it work, or is it going to try and kill it?
No, it works. It's actually I've carved a special lens in a monocle that allows you to read languages. It might be useful.
Sure.
Come.
It's neat for our line of work.
So if you're willing, you guys are capable, especially since there's now all four of you standing there, to get this thing back into the room. And it's quite heavy, like I said. It's like moving a refrigerator or something, right? So you together and you drag this thing. It's like limp legs scraping across the stone floor, and you get it back into this workshop. And the workshop is just filled with parts. It's like walking into like a old mechanic's shop, right? It's just there's all kinds of large pieces here everywhere, and the place it's been wrecked. Also, there's a huge swath of the parts that have been rusted from one corner of the room all the way to the door, right? So this thing activated and it was like, and just rusted its way right out the door. You'll notice that the dwarf has no metal on them. They are wearing just leather and leather gloves, and they have, in fact, their calipers they had in their belt are actually made of like looks like a very hard wood or something. So he knew not to have metal around this creature, but anyway. So he says, "Okay, thank you." Here, and he starts going through all of this, just sliding it around. He pulls out this little weird. It looks like a gear with a lens fixed in the middle of it, and a tiny little like handle, so you can hold it up against your eye. And he says, "Behold, the monocle of limited languages." I mean, it's a prototype. I'm still working on it. Here you go. With it,
Great.
you can read some languages, like Common and Dwarvish. I mean, come on. But there are some people that don't read Common, so it's very useful for them. And Dwarvish. I bet you all don't read Dwarvish, do you? See? Now you can. Also Gnomish sometimes. Depends on the accent. Here you go. The dialect, I should say. There you go.
Dialect is the correct term for when talking about writing, yes.
Yes. So I'm not, we're not in, that's not my cognate. I do,
Have you considered that the monofocus on specific cognates in this research institution may contribute to the several terrible and potentially dangerous issues we've run into in the 40 minutes or so we've been in here?
Yeah, I've heard this before. We had a student who got kicked out not long ago, who used to say that if everybody was just forced to study something called the humanities, that our engineers would be much more kind of like informed about something called ethics. I don't know what that is, but I think that's just hogwash. And he's kicked out, so he was stealing books or something. What the hell? Why would we listen to a thief anyway?
So Ren shakes like an animal to get all the rust dust off of himself, and it just creates this cloud. So
the rust dust settles. So he's like, "Hey, what are you guys doing here anyway? You're not in our cognate, and I'm not even sure you're students. I mean, what's the story here?"
I'll have you know, I am very academic. See, I just used a big word.
Yeah, you did, and you've got like somebody's brass spoon falling out of your back pocket too.
Let's not get bogged down into the details here.
Okay.
No.
Hey, is that my notebook?
Nope.
Okay.
And he like shoves it into his pants.
He's like, "I don't want it anymore. It's yours."
That dude who got kicked out, did he happen to have a room around here by any chance?
Yeah, he is in the cognate, the Steel Singer's cognate, but yeah, he was often hanging out over in the Rectifier's lounge down the hall. Oh, actually, you can't get there because the gear's down. You'd have to go through the back, right here. And he points at a door in the back of his studio, and there's a narrow tunnel, kind of like that narrow tunnel that Dusk and Ren saw downstairs. It's like this. It's like 4 or 5 feet wide and a low ceiling. And he's like, "This is the back way. You go down You'll go through like 3 rooms, and it'll end at the lounge.
Thank you. We'll head on through.
Yeah, you really saved my bacon, so to speak, with my friend here. So just don't touch anything, and I'll see you later. Good luck.
Good luck with that programming error, and let's head on in.
All right. So let me describe what you see next, and yeah, we'll do one more room, and then we'll take a quick break, and then we can come back and see the finale here. So you head down the hallway. There's this narrow hall, and it opens in a room. The room is a long workroom with benches and tables around the outside, and then at the far end there's a door, and the hallway continues. So you have to like pass through this room to get to the hallway. And he had said you got to go through a couple rooms to get there. There's all of these workspaces, and above each one there are like pegboards with tools, and there's drawers in all the tables. And but the middle of the room has these very thin pillars. I mean, they're like 2 inches thick, and they seem to be of a strange metallic material that kind of waves a little bit almost like in the breeze, like it's like a flexible material. And each of these pillars is about 4 feet high. So the top is like chest height for at least the non-Goliath of you. And they're at 2 or 3 feet apart, and there's, a dozen or more of them. And sitting on top of each one is a music box of some sort. This almost looks like a weird display, like you were in a display hall in a museum. And each of the pedestals has a different kind of music box on it. And there's these little, so you can see these little, some of them are squares with a winder on the side, and some of them are circular, and there's like a little dancer, and others look like little pretend musical instruments. And so there's all kinds. So maybe this is a steel singer's workshop. You're not sure. And the far door is on the other side.
So do we think that, can I make like an insight roll to figure out if these are like people's personal music boxes, I guess?
So, yeah, I mean, no roll necessary. This looks like a room where, based on the fact that there's a number of like workstations are on the sides and roughly the same number of music boxes set up in the display area, you'd guess this is like students come in, they work at workstations, they make these boxes. Maybe each of these boxes is being worked on, or is a finished product, or is the one that they're each using for an example. If you want to know more about the details, go ahead and make some intelligence-based check. So Arcana or Investigation. But you can just look around and see, there's like 12 workstations and 12 music boxes here.
If I wanted to find out which one was Danichek's, would that be... I was thinking that would be insight.
Would history apply? Oh, well, not for figuring out which one's Danichek.
Well, the problem is you don't really know very much about Danichek, but let's say, go ahead, let's make an insight check. You do know a little bit about him. So...
We have his map. That's a physical object of his.
Yeah, and you did learn that he was trying to develop a special kind of magic to use to develop a new school of bardic magic. And a lot of these music boxes look primarily mechanical, right? They look like you wind them up and they play music for you. But one of them, with a 22, one of them looks not like a music box, but like a self-playing musical instrument, which is different than a music box, right? This looks like, it's like a little fiddle, and there's a bunch of gears attached to it such that it would draw the bow across the strings on its own, right? So it's a self-playing musical instrument, whereas the others are music boxes, and looks a little bit more like, and that's about 2/3 of the way down on the right, and there's a workstation across from it.
I go up to it and I start like looking at it, and I'm like,
all right.
Does anybody know if we can steal this?
So to walk through this area, so these pillars are like 2 feet apart. So you have to kind of like, like slide through it. So go ahead and make a dexterity saving throw to try to move through these, and they're really flimsy. These pillars are weirdly wobbly. So go ahead and make a dexterity saving throw to move through. Okay. So as you kind of slide through and you brush up against one of the pillars, and it starts to vibrate, and there's this noise it starts making, and then all of the pillars right around it start vibrating, and you get the and there's this harmonic effect, and it spreads through all 12 of them, and it's getting louder and louder and louder, and it's becoming deafening. So now all 4 of you need to make a wisdom saving throw.
Sorry, guys.
That's not great.
Okay, so Smorg, Mutalib, and Dusk. Do I have Ren's wisdom saving throw?
No, oh, there it is. Wisdom.
Ding. All right. So only Ren resists, but the other 3 of you take some damage because the sound is not actually that loud, but it's maddening. It really cuts into your mind because these are a bunch of magical musical instruments that have been like unnaturally activated here. And it's like this dissonant, discordant, raucous sound that just gives you a sudden, intense headache. And the 3 of you just run forward to escape it. You're out, you lose control of yourself for a moment, just having to you just charge forward to get away from the sound. And so Ren, you're like, oh, that hurts. Ow. That's unpleasant. Let's see what the damage is here. Okay, nice and low. All right, so Ren, you take 2 points of psychic damage, and the other 3 of you take 5. And you immediately use your reaction to move as far as your speed allows you away from the sound. This is the dissonant whispers effect, basically, but it's this discordant tune. So 3 of you charge forward into the room, this banging, and a whole bunch of these music boxes just kind of like fall to the ground as you come crashing through them. And Ren, you're like, whoa, it hurts, but I mean, it's like music that's too loud. You're like, God, I'm going to hear that tomorrow. And you're able to just walk after them calmly. So you arrive at the far end. After a moment or two, the vibrating recedes. And you can still hear the ringing, all 4 of you. Now, you look back and most of the music boxes have been knocked to the ground. Maybe a few of them got damaged. So you can keep going on, or you can try to go back in.
I'm not going back in, but can I send my mage hand in to pick up Danachek's music box?
Yeah, I think you can do that. And even if it bumps, right, you can activate it. Or it activates it. You're far enough away that it'll be loud and unpleasant, but it won't it's not like, this was like sticking your head in the speaker, right? So the spectral hand appears and floats across the room, and you gently pick up this small fiddle that has this contraption like clamped onto the sides of it to hold the bow, and it drags it out. It's a little heavy to carry by itself, but is able to get it out back to you. So now it's a little dinged up from the fall, but it only fell a couple feet. And it'd be like dropping a violin from 3 or 4 feet. Right? It can be badly damaged, but it can survive that too. So it looks like it landed on the mechanical side and didn't damage it too much. So you've recovered Danachek's mechanical self-playing instrument that he's been studying. So that's.
I forget which one of us wanted this, but here it is.
Smorg's idea was initially to go after that, I believe.
Here you go.
Oh no, it wasn't my idea.
Oh, I thought that was that to get. Well, maybe it wasn't your idea. Whoever's idea it was.
Was it Ren's idea to take something? No, it couldn't have been.
Just trying to blame somebody else.
Well, Ren will, very much take it. Like, well, I mean, if he's not going to, and he's run out of like loot holding real estate, like he's like packed to the gills at this point, but just under an arm.
All right, fair enough. So you have the instrument. You go a little bit further, and there's a second room, and in this room is largely empty, except in the corner there is a large bronze ball of spikes sitting against the wall. Right, it's just like a giant spiky bronze ball sitting there on your. That's you could walk around it to get to the far hallway. Otherwise, these rooms, again, are weirdly empty. These halls and rooms, not built for human or humanoid use, you could tell. Some out-of-control construction. And now there's a big brass ball here. Or bronze, rather.
Maybe it's a massager of some kind.
I mean, if this... Is this the... He said that the lounge is the final room along this hallway, right?
Yep.
And we're not in that room yet.
No, there's one. It looks like the hallway continues, and you see at the far end another doorway that you can't tell whether there's any doors out of that hallway, but, you know, it looks...
Let's ignore this and keep going.
Okay. So you can walk around it. It's not moving. It's not blocking. Although as you walk past it, it squeaks and chitters. And all of a sudden, it turns from a ball into something standing on all fours. And it turns to face you. And has a long, pointy nose. And little black eyes that look like they're made of black stone or black gem of some sort, glassy. And this little face is peeking out from behind all of these bronze spikes that go all over its back. Kind of like a creature that some of you might have seen, like a hedgehog or a porcupine, but it's all made of bronze. And hanging around its neck is something like a sign with writing on it. But it's difficult to get to see quite what it is, but there's like a sign, and you get, since you're standing right next to the thing, it looks like it says, "If found, please," and you can't read the rest of it. And it's like backing away from you, like,
Oh, it's retreating.
Yeah, it doesn't
Okay.
look like it's attacking you. It looks like it's frightened of you. You can keep
Yeah,
going.
we're just gonna ignore that.
So you can leave the clockwork porcupine that's not attacking you, but that's like hanging back with its little sign around it. And if you get a little bit closer to it, it kind of turns into a big spiky ball again. And you move past it into the hallway. So let's see here. All right. So the next room you arrive at, let's see. Yes. So it looks like you find a room that at the end of the hallway ends, and there's this room, and there's a closed door on one side of the room, right? So the hallway has ended in a room that is roughly the proportion of the room you saw in the map. Furthermore, the room is largely empty except for a long, big, like thick table. Table is about like this thick on its top with like 6 stout legs holding it up. And there's some like panels down the sides of this large wooden table. And there's the single closed door. So it matches the description of what you have seen. Let's see. Can everyone please make perception checks?
All right.
Oh my. So here's the question. What order were you walking in?
I think I was in front.
I would have been behind, I think.
Okay.
I'll be third.
Okay. So it's Mutalib and Ren, and then Smorg and Dusk. Okay. So Mutalib, you're going first. And so as you are walking into the room, you feel something press against your foot. And right at that moment, Dusk and Smorg, you see that Mutalib has like stepped through where there's a tripwire, a very fine little metallic thread across right near the floor level. And as he hits it, there's this flash that is set off at the top of the doorway, and the first three of you, Mutalib, Ren, and Smorg, I think Dusk said that they would be last, there's this color, this spray of color flashes in your face, and you can't see for a moment. And you're blinking, and your eyesight is slowly coming back as you kind of stumble into the room. Right about that time, the other door opens, and there's a young man standing there, human. Imagine this fella, but he's just a little bit older, maybe. So, he looks 17, 18, let's say. And he says, this is, hey, you don't belong in here. This is the Rectifier's Lounge. Get out before I throw you out. If you were welcome in here, you would have known about the little secret you discovered. So the three of you can't see, but as you stumble in, but Dusk, you can. You see this person come in, and you can see that behind them, they seem, this boy, really, seems like no threat at all. However, standing in the hallway behind them are several large mechanical devices that look menacing. So the three of you that are blinded for a moment are a bit disoriented for this turn, let's say. So Dusk, you'll get to declare an action, and then we'll see what happens.
I would like to determine whether this guy is a rectifier.
All right.
Because he doesn't look like he belongs here either.
So make an insight check. See if you can get a sense for what this... 20.
Wow.
All right. So he seems like... You've met people like this one before. He seems like he's... Oh, a kitty. He seems like he's young, uppity, entitled. Probably someone powerful's son. Or, and that's the impression you get. That maybe they think that they own the place, even though they're probably not really. They didn't earn it. So they will probably insist that, they know what's going on. They're in charge. This is their sort of place. That's the vibe you get off of this kid. Entitled brat. So that means he thinks he's a rectifier, probably.
So I will draw my rapier and say, name the 5 rectifier principles.
He said, what? You don't get to ask me that. I'm supposed to be the one asking you those things. You better get out of here. I'm going to get the instructor. Right now.
Yeah, he's going to die.
So he then makes a gesture, and these creatures walk in. So I'm going to move you guys to there's a map. We have a map. All right. So let me put you in the right order here. So you are, I believe it was, so Mutalib came in. So the secret entrance is down here in this left corner. Came in like this roughly. Let's say you've kind of stumbled forward a little bit. And Dusk has stepped in here. So in case people want to know, if it's relevant, I'll just draw the doorway is like here roughly. You can see that little box that represents the secret door you came in. And then the apprentice wizard is up here. And standing behind him are several beings. Let me show you what they look like. So there are 3 rather slight looking robotic things that look something like this. All right. And then, but standing in the middle of them is one much larger that looks like this. All right, so these animated automata come stomping in, and we should go ahead. Here's what we're going to do. We will take a quick break, and when we come back, we will roll initiative. All right, and then we'll see how this concludes. Sound good, everybody?
Sounds good.
All right,
Great.
Be right back. All right, and we're back. Hi, I'm Eugene Marshall. This is Sigil Spotlight. We are playing Clockwork Run by Gabrielle Harbowy, an original adventure written for our stream, which is super cool. And I'm going to flash up the cover art real quick again for the folks at home. Based on her novel, Gears of Faith, available now via several links below the stream. So go ahead and check that out if you get a chance. We've seen our group of adventurers here. We've got Dusk, Mutalib, Smorg, and Ren have agreed to venture into the Clockwork Cathedral, a tinker's or engineer's university, in order to retrieve a book that had been kind of stashed in there. And if they can do so, if they can liberate it and bring it back to their friend Zay at the Duck and Castle Tavern, not far, then Zay's friend Danachek can be readmitted to the university, to the college, and that is very important for his career, and because he's a friend of Zay's, important for Zay too. So as a favor to Zay, an old adventuring buddy of yours, you've done so, and upon entering, you found all manner of oddity and weirdness with these various and sundry clockwork devices. You've encountered a clockwork rust monster. You've encountered multiple mishaps of students injuring themselves and losing control of their experiments. You even encountered a clockwork porcupine that had an "if lost, found, please return" tag on it. You found the lost and found, I might add, and several of you managed to liberate a few of those items. Let's just say they've been found. All right. So, but you finally found your way into the room where Danachek hid the book that he stole, or let's say borrowed, from the library without permission. And that's the thing that needs to get returned before they will allow him to be readmitted. But he wasn't allowed back on the ground, so he couldn't get it himself. And here you are. However, he hid it in the Rectifier's Lounge, and they are... well, at least one of their number is unpleasant. So a young, upstart, cocky apprentice wizard has come in and has demanded you justify yourselves and has decided to take violent action against you. He has at his back, helping him feel confident perhaps, 4 different automated beings, 3 of one sort and 1 larger, more menacing, with an eerie red glow, another. And that's where we are picking things back up. We're in this otherwise impressive room. There is this very large kind of meeting table with the panels in the side of it. That you were told by Danachek is where he hid the book, inside this table somehow. However, right now you've got these clockwork beings in your face. So we've rolled initiative over break, and we are going to see what happens next. Dusk, you are up first. What would you like to do?
I would like to attack this upstart wizard with my rapier.
All right. Well, he is within range, so feel free to do so. Okay, so as you charge forward, you can see he's not wearing any armor. He's just wearing a wizard's kind of a wizard's robe, or a tinker's robe, perhaps. But he sees you coming, and he quickly grabs at some mechanism he has on a belt. And as he slaps it, as you come forward, there's this shimmering, kind of like, almost like liquid light pours out of it and coats his whole form. And so your rapier hits this stuff and deflects. It's almost like hitting amber. And it kind of covers him in this coating for a moment that shimmers, and he kind of sneers at you like, "Ha, see?" So he activated some weird arcane device that threw up a shield to block your attack. Would you like to do anything else? As the rogue, you have your bonus action. You can disengage or whatnot if you like.
I'd like to threaten/intimidate him to get him to leave.
Okay, so go ahead and make an intimidation check, or if you like, and we'll see if he finds that effective or not, or he is moved by that. How do you intimidate him? What do you do? I mean, besides trying to stab him, I mean, you did try to do that.
Yeah, aside from that,
Yeah, you snarl while you do it or something.
That he's the one who'd better leave, and he's clearly half-rate novice, and he's in the wrong place, and he doesn't even know the rectifiers
principles
creeds.
Yeah. So he is taken aback at first. He's like, not only by your words, but also your actions. I mean, you just charged him and tried to stab him with a blade, and he's like, whoa.
Because I'm a little serious.
Yeah, and you're serious looking with a blade out. So he steps back, and you can tell it has an effect, but he's also trying hard not to lose face, in this situation. So Ren, it is your turn. You are
You're gonna lose face in front of robots. Big deal.
This is his turf. So what would you like to do?
I guess the robots are gonna go tell his parents that he was.
That's right. They'll report back.
So we are currently blinded. Is that correct?
Just for this turn, yes.
Just for this turn.
Yeah, all of you except Dusk, actually.
So Ren will stumble around Mutalib over in this general direction.
Mm-hmm.
And, he can hear what's going on.
Yep.
And he's like, yeah, what they said, kid. And he takes like something heavy that he recovered from the lost and found, and he just chucks it at where he thinks the voice of the apprentice wizard is. And so I'm going to try and throw an improvised weapon, but I wanted to do non-lethal.
Okay, so go ahead and throw, for roll purposes, make a dexterity attack. So like any of your monk weapon attacks, I will subtract. You will get disadvantage on it because you can't see, and I will subtract your proficiency because you're not proficient in improvised weapons, unless you have the Tavern Brawler feat, which that's a natural 1. So, go ahead and it's an improvised weapon, so that's just going to be, it's not a monk weapon. So what's your strength score?
Strength is a 10.
A 10, so no bonus. So it's just 1 point of damage for throwing it, but it smacks you, Dusk, with a natural 1, throwing blind at a voice standing next to your ally. So you chuck a cracked hand mirror. It smacks Dusk in the shoulder. You're like, hey, ow, 1 point of damage. But
Ren just yells like, and you better get out of here. But he's like yelling at the wall that he's standing next to.
So Dusk is a little, the apprentice seems to be unimpressed by your assault, your mirror attack. And in fact, but the apprentice wizard, however, is still uncomfortable being quite so close to Dusk. So the apprentice wizard takes the disengage action, carefully slips away behind his metallic friends and says, "Get 'em, boys!" Kind of makes a hand gesture, and they do. So they start marching in. This one comes around behind you, Dusk, and is going to try to attack you. He kind of raises up this big fist and brings it down at you with a thump, and absolutely misses. In fact, trips over the hand mirror on the ground and stumbles and just misses entirely. But then the other hand comes around because it gets 2 swings, and it does a little better this time. 7. So you were chuckling at the bad swing, and then it comes around with the right and thumps you unpleasantly. So the next one comes charging in, or like marching in a rather orderly fashion. You get an opportunity attack against this one because it's just going to go right past you. And it goes up to Ren, who threw something at its master. Oh, that's a hit. You don't have an ally within 5 feet, so it's just the regular piercing, not the sneak. All right, so you do manage to dent it, knock a piece of metal plating off of its side that clatters to the ground. And it takes a swing at you, Ren. Now, you can't see, so it gets advantage on this first hit. Mm-hmm. Swingy. And 15 beat your AC? Probably not.
No, AC 16.
All right. But it swings a second time. Jerk that it is. And misses again. can't hit the guy who can't see. I think you're swaying around, right? And it just...
It's kind of cartoonish. He like trips over something, and the swing goes over his head, and then when he stands up, the kick just misses. Right,
and it's kind of crowded against that wall and between that big table, so it's like thunk, hits an elbow against the wall. It's trying to punch at you. Ineffective. So then the third one comes marching in, and this one will go right past you as well, Dusk, but your opportunity attack is done. 15, 20, 25. It can't quite get to Mutalib, so it will dash action and get right up in your face. And then that was that one. And then the Helmed Horror comes in, the big guy. Let's see what he can do. Yes, he has a sword. And he will swing it once at Dusk. Oh, that one will hit, though. I said roll, mister. There it is. 6 more slashing. Only the first one counts. And then just keep marching. 20, 25. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. And it gets to Mutalib and will swing at you. And you are blinded this round, so it gets an advantage on the attack. And that's a hit because of the advantage. For 8 slashing. Cuts into you. You're like, you're starting to see now, and you see a large metallic being in front of you. It is your turn. He's just cut into your shoulder. What would you like to do?
Sorry, I'm using shield as a reaction when it swings at me to increase my AC to 25, and the attack misses, even though it has advantage.
But let me double check something. I believe... Oh, no. When you... Okay, yeah, you're right. I thought it had to be an attack you can see, and it doesn't.
Nope.
It's just an attack that does damage. Wow, cool. There you go. Yours doesn't look like the wizards out there, but it is similarly effective.
All right. Let's see. So I'm still blinded, correct?
Yes, this is the end of the round. This will be the end of the blindness after you take your turn. Everyone will be able to see except Smorg, who is... Oh, I put you in the wrong order. That's fine. Smorg will go after you, and he's blind too.
Got it. I'm going to disengage so they don't get attacks of opportunity. I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 over there.
Yes.
And that is my turn as I'm blind.
All right, so Smorg, you are up next, actually, and you are also blind. You hear all of this happening, though. Mutalib just kind of like stumbles around past the 2 automatons in front of him as they swing, but he manages to kind of bob and weave and get past them. What would you like to do?
Well, I'm blind too. Also.
Yeah. I guess you wouldn't have been able to see that. You hear him bob and weave. you hear actually what you hear is a bunch of stumbling and shoving and thumping and grunting. But you got a general idea about where the metallic creatures are because they're plenty loud when they walk.
Well, I can bless without seeing people, so I'm gonna make sure that Dusk is within 30 feet of me, and then I'm gonna cast bless on Dusk, Mutalib, and Ren.
Great. So you each get a D4 to attacks and saving throws, I believe.
As long as I concentrate.
Yep, for up to 1 minute. Cool. So, kind of like, as a grave cleric, I can just envision like deathly light emanates from you and settles upon your allies. And it is top of the round again, Dusk. So there's Mutalib has kind of stumbled up, blinking and rubbing the kind of daze out of his eyes next to you, but there's this armor here. The apprentice wizard is out in the hall gloating. What would you like to do?
I would like to attack the thing in front of me.
Okay.
And I do have an ally.
Yes, indeed.
And I have bless. So let's see how this goes.
All right, that's a hit. Wow, and a good one. 15.
Good hit.
Oh, 18 damage. My goodness.
And then I can add a D4 to that.
Well, to the hit, not to the damage.
Oh, okay. So I don't need to add the D4.
Yeah, it's the 2-hit roll, which you don't need. You did good enough already.
Yep.
And you manage to find a slot in between its heavy plates of metal, and you cut into it, and you just hear like gears grinding and some sort of metal cordage snapping, and it's like its arm is no longer functioning here. Good hit. So you have a bonus action. You could disengage. You can offhand attack if you'd like. If you have a dagger or something, it's your choice.
I will try to offhand.
All right. That one is not going to hit, though. The dagger comes up and just scrapes across its metallic carapace. Scraping, an awful sound. Mm-hmm. Ren, you can see now, you've blinked, and you see this creature that's just been swinging haymakers wildly at you and just keeps hitting into the wall and missing you.
His eyesight returns, and he blinks, and he's like, this thing is like looming over him, and he puts his hands up, and as he does, like all the stuff that's stuffed into his pockets just falls. It starts clattering, but he just starts, both fists just firing on this suit of armor. So 2 attacks. Where are my attacks? There they are. 1 and 2.
All right, the second's a solid hit. The first, clank, but then you follow up and power through it, punch a hole right in its on a weak spot there.
And then I will burn a key point to a flurry of blows for 2 more attacks.
All right. All right, again, same thing. You hit it, and then you hit it a second time and punch through. Only the second attack really piercing its metallic hide. But now this one also is now kind of wobbling off center as though it's been badly injured. The apprentice wizard in the back says, No, don't destroy those. Those are my house's automata. I need those. Jerks. And he shoots... Mutalib is the closest large person to him. So he's going to shoot a firebolt at you. Actually, you know what? He might be a jerk about this. And he's going to step up to this doorway. And he is going to... Burning Hands you guys. Unfortunately, he'll hit his ally. But he's going to do it anyway. Because that's the kind of guy he is.
All right. That's the dexterity saving throw, correct?
It is a dexterity saving throw. And that's... Holy cow. He did almost max damage.
Well, I fail.
Okay, so...
That's going to suck.
Yeah, so you make it. Dusk fortunately makes it, because he rolled 46, and he rolled 6665. Wow. 23 points of fire damage for Mutalib, 11 for Dusk. Wow. So he's like, ha! Unfortunately, let's see how the animated armor does. Nope. He destroys it. He's like, ha! That'll show you. Oh, crap! He says as the fire just washes over this thing and you hear cords inside ping, sling, snapping, and then it goes and it just collapses sideways onto the ground. Oh, my dad's gonna kill me. You guys better get out of here. No! All right. Well, that guy's dead. Boop. But there is one here, and he's going to walk over to Smorg and take a punch. Or 2. Number 1. Number 2. Okay, probably only the second one hits. I'm assuming your AC is higher than 12. In fact, it's 17, I see now. So this creature swings at you and misses. The second one clanks into your armor, though, hard enough to really, crush your shoulder a little bit. You're like, ow, that really smarts. 4 points of bludgeoning damage. The one in front of Ren that's badly injured by his flurries of blows brings his fist, instead of trying to do these haymakers and keeps hitting the walls, tries to bring a slam right down on top of you. But he just smashes into the table instead. Finally, just with a jab, catches you in the chin, though, for 6. The helmed horror turns step by step, inch by inch. Right? It comes towards you and swings at each of you because you guys are the ones threatening its master. So here's a swing. Number 1, that one's at Dusk. Oh no, didn't hit, so they disregard the damage. And then here's a swing number 2 at Mutalib. Oh my goodness, a 1. It's just, it actually stumbles over the corpse of its, or the remnants of its fellow construct, and just, whoa, sword goes wildly high. Smorg, you have an automaton in front of you, this metallic robot. You can see in between the plates of iron that look like a suit of armor, there's like gears and pulleys and metal tendons that are animating it robotically. What would you like to do?
Well, I don't want to be next to it. Do I have to... What type of action is it to keep concentration up?
So you just, in order to keep concentration, you just don't take damage and don't cast another concentration spell. You can do any non-concentration spell, an attack. You can also choose the disengage action if you want to move away without getting hit.
Yeah, how far can I move with the disengage?
It's just you take your action as the disengage, and then you get your regular movement, which is probably 30 feet.
Okay. Can I move around table corners?
Yeah, sure. So you could move like, well, where would you like to move? Probably almost.
I'm going to try to get here.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, 5,
2,
10.
3, 4.
You can do diagonals and everything. So 5, 10, 15, 20. Yeah, so that's fine.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm just going to maintain my concentration.
All right. So you slip away from this, concentrating on the less of everybody, and take up a defensive position at the north end of the table. All right. Mutalib, there is this large, the largest of them all here, is standing next to you, and this creature's almost as tall as you, this construct. And
all right, so bonus action, I am going to second wind to heal.
Mm-hmm. No, good
nice.
Roll. Yeah. That's
and then I'm just going to walk up to this dude. The helmed horror gets an attack of opportunity on me.
Yes, he does. That's going to miss.
Miss. I'm going to grapple the wizard.
Mm-hmm. I won't. Just for fun. Just for fun. Let's see how badly you grapple. Hey, he does a pretty good job squirming, but you get a hold of him.
He does a double fake to try and get out of the way, and I kind of just grab him by the neck and pick him up.
Yeah.
And turn around back into the room with him in my hands. Tell your constructs to stand down.
And on his turn, let's see how he reacts. Dusk and Ren, you're going to get to react before the apprentice wizard does. Is there anything particular you'd like to do? Let's start with Dusk. There is this creature here that, you know.
I was going to do what Mutalib was. I was also going to tell him to stand down, but I don't think I would have been as effective at it. So I will ready an action to attack the construct, but hold based on what this guy has to say for himself.
Okay. Yeah, so that is one that should be no problem. You prepare your rapier. You will attack the helmed horror if the apprentice wizard doesn't call it off.
If I don't like what he has to say, yes.
Absolutely.
Oh, and I'm actually, I'm going to take one step back and kind of drag the apprentice wizard into the room with me.
Absolutely, yeah.
He is grappled. He moves with me now.
Exactly. He has no choice in the matter. His feet are currently off the ground.
Also, I could use a heal.
Okay, well.
I think that one's on Smorg.
Yeah, I'll get
yes.
that.
But I say so in case he's... I don't know if anyone's blindness has worn off because I'm a little busy over here. So
right.
So I state it.
How about Ren? This creature you've knocked the tar out of it, and it's looking like it's falling apart. But there's another one now over to your left that's looking a little more healthy. And then there's the big one over there bothering Dusk. But Mutalib seems to have certain matters in hand, so to speak. What would you like to do?
So Ren will move right here so that he's next to both of the automatons, but He's going to hold his attack to see if they stand down, and if they don't, then he'll start unloading.
Okay. So the wizard says, "Don't stand down." He's shouting it, "Stand down." And then he says, "Oh, nuts. They're programmed to defend me no matter what. If they think I'm in danger." And they don't look like they're going to stand down. So, however, he did do what he was told, but it looks like he might not actually have much of a choice as long as he's in danger. Mm-hmm. So, those of you who have held actions, I will return to you since that wasn't clear. Like, does that count as not liking what he said, Dusk?
That counts as not liking what he said.
Okay, fair.
Because what he just said was he can't tell them to back off.
So go ahead and take your hit on the creature to yourself.
Okay.
And we'll go ahead and move the dead one out of the way just to clear the board. I guess I can just do this. Boink. All right, that unfortunately will not pierce. It's intense armor. This thing is, I mean, it's like attacking a suit of plate mail, right? So you're.
Can I add the bless?
You could, but it only adds a D4, and the number you'd
wouldn't
need,
make it.
Yeah, it wouldn't make it. It's
okay.
This would be like hitting Mutalib. I mean, it's that level of kind of difficulty.
Okay.
And you've seen plenty of blades just slide off of that suit
and I'm
of armor.
going to disengage.
Okay, bonus action disengage, no problem. You have your movement still, so you can move up to 6 squares away. You could move to the south away, or to the right, or wherever you'd like to go.
I'll move over here next to the table.
All right. So this warrior on the left of you, Ren. What about you? You had a held action. Would you like to beat the tar out of the badly damaged one, or the healthy one, or neither?
The badly damaged one. Let's see what happens.
Wise. All right. The first hit. Oh boy. So both are misses, unfortunately. A 12 and an 8. It's a 5 and a 1. You have your. I'll go ahead and let you do the bonus action unarmed strike if you like.
Sure, I'll burn a key point.
So that gives you 2.
Yep.
Well, that'll hit, and so will that. All right. So. It is on its last legs. One more hit, you're sure it'd be down. Because it's now all of its metal plates, all of them have been. You've either punched holes through them or knocked them off. This is just like a metal frame with like gears and pulleys. All the clockwork is exposed. You could just reach in and just rip its little mainspring right out. Right? It's that fragile now. I mean, it would take. Any damage at all, let's say, would be enough, right? But it's still up. It's still ticking away. And it's going to try, it and its companion there are going to try to beat you up. Or down, perhaps. Let's see how they do. That's a whiff. Oh my gosh. I think 16 might be the number, though. Wow, that's really, really... So they're not... I think the first 2 ones are clearly from the badly damaged one, right? So this thing just like... You just hear like this weird grinding sound. It can't even lift its metallic arms up anymore. It's useless. In fact, at this point, double ones, it actually just collapses in a pile of gears and pulleys and springs bouncing around. Ding, 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 ding. The other one, though, swings and hits and connects for 5 bludgeoning. So it does manage to get a good shot in on you. The big boy turns and swings at Mutalib because Mutalib is the one, of course, holding the kid. So one of those is going to hit.
I'm going to use my second shield, and no, it doesn't.
All right. So again, a brutal swing. You see this coming, and you're like, whoa, And then it's just like, it just like hits an invisible barrier and deflects off with a scraping sound. Kind of sparks fly, and it just stares at you. Smorg. So Dusk has moved near you. It looks injured. There's two opponents left in the room. One is one of those armors that your allies have beaten up, and then another is a untouched, towering. This guy looks like a mountain of steel.
I was thinking about finishing off that one guy, but he sneezed himself to death. So
He did.
I think, I'm just leaning on this table, taking a breather. I'll heal Dusk. Yeah.
So a healing hand heals you up for 7 more hit points. And it is your turn, Mutalib.
All right, I'm just going to try and knock this kid out with the pommel of my sword.
All right.
So just kind of like hit him in the gut with it until he falls unconscious.
And that'll do it. Yep.
That's 13.
Yeah, he's out cold.
And then I'm going to throw him out the door with the second attack action so that the constructs move to defend him out there.
So he is, I don't even know what's the unconscious. He's prone and unconscious. I'll put little marks on him. So you toss him easily aside. He ragdolls his way out into the hallway there. Falls on the ground. Out cold. As he does it, both of the automata's heads just pivot to follow him, automatically. And they seem to be directing their attention that way now.
And I'm just going to move down here and see if I can get that book out of the desk.
All right, it'll take one more swing at you, but with your shield up, because your shield lasts for 1 round after you cast it. It's not just to 1 attack. That shield is still shimmering, and again, the sword swings, and you just hear this awful screeching like metal on glass as it misses, deflecting. All right, so you just threw this person and cast a reaction spell. So the throwing is you get to interact with an object for free once a round. So that's your freebie. And then you can use your action to go over to the area of the table, and you can see it has these delicate panels on the side. How would you like to try to remove this book?
I'm going to see if there's a way to slide the panels open.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like, that there's a kind of flush cutout that you could slide if since you know it's there. So you slide it open, and as you do so, however, little darts shoot out and strike you. They are quite sharp. So let's see. They do... Is there a save here? Let me take a check. You take this much piercing damage, 6. So these things just hit in your arm, and they're small. They hurt a little bit, but only one of them's really anything more than just a minor scratch. But you feel like, whoa, you feel nauseous for a second. You're not gonna die, you don't think, but you feel off. So you have the poisoned condition for a little while. As these things are stuck in your arm. But there it is. As you slide it, there's a book here. So that is your action. And so next round, you or anyone else could grab it and run.
I'm just going to use my action surge and grab the book now.
Okay, you've got the book in your hand. The mission is end in sight. You just need to get out of here, and you're done.
All right.
So that is a good round there for Mutalib. There's the turn order. All right, Dusk, we're back to the top with you. Smorgas has healed you. Mutalib has retrieved the book, though he did trigger a trap. There are some beings here that seem to have ill will towards you, though the status is a little unclear now that the unconscious wizard is out in the hallway. You could get past the helmed horror and out that way, or you could go back the way you came. What would you like to do? Or you could fight, obviously, of course.
I kind of feel like we could just book it out of here. I don't think Unconscious Boy is going to give us any trouble. I don't think his damaged automatons are going to put up much of a chase. But that leaves the fact that we didn't enter the room that way, so once we get out into the hallway, A, we're not sure where we are, and B, didn't that guy say something about the gear being down, which is why we went the back way? So I think booking it out the back way makes more sense. even if it means dealing with those music boxes again.
All right. So you can just, as a rogue, you could take your movement, you could take a dash action and bonus action dash, and you could get 90 feet. You could get all the way into the room with the Clockwork Porcupine, like significantly far away to be entirely out of this if you want.
Okay, I'm gonna yell to my companions, time to retreat, and look it out of there.
All right.
I don't think I'm gonna go all 90 feet though. I'm gonna definitely leave the room, but I'm gonna hover outside the door just to make sure that they, get out safely.
All right. So you move like 30 or 60 feet down, out into the hallway, or the little narrow accessy, basically like robot access room hallway. And Ren, Dusk has said it's time to go. You've got this creature in front of you that is at least momentarily in combat with you, though it seems to be looking out in the hallway now at the apprentice. What would you like to do?
So Ren screams, "This is why I hate school," and runs like around the automaton. And I'm gonna use a key point to disengage as a bonus action.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then double move on out of there.
All right, so you join Dusk in the hallway. The apprentice wizard is unconscious and will be for 1 to 4 hours. The animate armor next to Mutalib looks at Mutalib, looks at the apprentice wizard, is going to swing at you with its fist once, and hits for 5 points unless you have any more shield spells, but I think you might be out.
Let's see. I've used 2, which I'll just take it.
Okay, so you take 5, and then it keeps walking, and it leaves your range, so you can swing at it.
Nah.
It swings at you, Smorg, because it just doesn't like the look of you. And hits you for 9. He just walks by and thunk, gives you a thunk.
Oh, ouch.
So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. And the Helmed Horror, too, looks at both of you, looks at Mutalib, looks at Smorg, looks at the apprentice, looks at Mutalib, looks at Smorg, looks at the apprentice. You think maybe, for just a second, it looks like it, and then it walks off after the apprentice, leaving the rest of you in the room alone with the book, your other 2 friends having left. Smorg, Mutalib, would you like to join your friends in the hallway?
Yeah, let's just go.
All right. So you find your way back out. You return. With the book in hand, you do notice that you're moving more slowly than you would have expected. Your turn hadn't come up until now, right? So it leaves, and you turn to go, and you're like, whoa. You're magically slowed for a little while, having grabbed the book. And it had a spell on it. But after a short time, that wears off. You're still going to be a bit woozy for a little while, but you manage to find your way back. The Clockwork Porcupine still being a ball of spikes in the next room. Beyond, you make it to the music box room, and you're able to pick your way through carefully. In part because the room's been kind of disrupted by the previous run through. You get out, you emerge back into the lab of the guy with the metallic rust monster, and he it's like, "Oh, you're back. Okay, well, you better hurry. The gear is going to come back down again. It goes up every about 7 or 8 minutes. So
Got it. Well, thank you for the heads up.
yeah, so you head out into the hallway, because if you'd recalled, at this point you were on the other side of a gear that had come down. And you head out, and you see the gear is there, and it slowly starts descending, and you're able to Indiana Jones dive under it and get out. Nobody leaves their hat behind, right? And you slowly pick your way back out of the area. You do encounter one group of novices kind of wandering the area. They are, in fact, cognates of the Alive and Ticking School, which is Zay's school, and they're like, oh, you look rough. Do you need? And they offer you magical healing, or rather, alchemical healing, because this is an engineer's college. They pull out some strange mechanical device that like whirs and provides like a weird harmonic like hum that slowly heals your wound. And all right, well, be more careful with your next science project. We got finals coming up. Gotta stay in top shape. And they leave you. You make your way out through the big grand display hall and all the way back to the Duck and Castle, where it's only been a matter of a few hours since you left. You see Zay there alone with Apple Slayer, and she is got a whole bunch of diagrams on a table. She's like kind of absent-mindedly sipping looks like a hot beverage, maybe tea of some sort, and like every once in a while picks at a plate of some vegetables and bread. And she, when you approach, she looks up and goes, you're back. Didn't you just leave? Wait a minute, where's Karen? Oh, I got wrapped up in my work again. Has it been a long time? Is it still the same day? What day is it?
It is still the same day.
Okay.
I just kind of tiredly thump the book onto the table.
Oh, wow, she says. That's fantastic.
The Cathedral is a horror show. I don't know why it's open.
You should see the amazing things we're designing, though. I mean, like, a friend of mine is making these instruments that, like, they vibrate and the frequencies heal your body. And another person, and she starts describing these bizarro inventions. But
we found a guy who cut open his hand and nearly mangled it for life trying to work on something, and then we got attacked by a mechanical rust monster. Because that's a thing anyone wants to reinvent, right? Like, that's a thing that should have a version of it made out of the stuff it eats.
That's an interesting phenomenon, she says. I wonder how they prevent it from rusting itself. Now, that's an interesting quandary. I might have to ask my instructor about that. Like a rust-proof rust monster. Wow.
Yeah.
I like that.
Also, someone invented killbots that you can't turn off, or at least programmed regular magical constructs, so that you can't tell them to stop trying to kill people, which, I'm going to point out, has really obvious failure states. From, like, a practical and ethical perspective.
Ethical? Danachek keeps talking about that. What is it? Okay, I'll have to ask him what he means by that anyway. All right, well, he's going to be delighted. Now, I promised you that I would reward you, and I will. So everybody, you get meals on me all week here at the Duck and Castle, and that's really all I can offer you because I'm a student and I've got loans. The only reason I can offer you that is because my friend runs the kitchen here. So, but hey, Danachek, once he gets this, I mean, it's unfortunate he would offer to perform for you, but, you know, he doesn't have his instrument. But maybe once he gets reinstated, he will be able to get back into his workshop, get his goofy mechanical instrument, and perform for you. And so, you know, he'll probably pay you back in that way. So thank you. That was great.
All right. I'd say it was a pleasure, but while it is generally a pleasure to talk to you, going into the university wasn't. But it's I'm glad that we've managed to save Danachek's career, as it were.
I really am too. He's a good guy. And
Well, he did steal his instrument, so...
Don't say that!
No.
Oh, you did? You have it?
Nope.
He'd be so delighted.
And we did not. And like boots up on the table and schools for suckers.
They flossed it in his pants, yeah.
Unfortunately, as you put your boots up, like half a dozen coins and bubbles slide out of them onto the floor. You're out of your boots. Clang, clang, clang. Don't mind.
Those have been there the entire time.
Wow. Okay. And on that note, we conclude the Clockwork Run by Gabrielle Harbowy. So thank you, everybody. That went well. All right. And that is the fun foray into the Clockwork Cathedral. So at this point in the night, we do Stars and Wishes. Everybody kind of points out something that they wanted to highlight, and wishes for something to be more of or different in our future sessions. So let's start with I will switch to our human names or instead of our character names. Tyler.
Yeah, sure. Stars. I don't know. I liked a lot of it. I liked the porcupine, even though we ignored it. I think no spoilers. I'm gonna play with it next time. I promise.
Excellent. What about you, Bashir?
I really liked just kind of the general theme of welcome to Magical University. There are many issues largely related to this being a Clockwork University. Those were a lot of fun to go through. If it wasn't obvious, this is in many ways my jam. Yeah, so I had a lot of fun with that.
Fantastic. What about you, Cliff?
Oh, it was a good time. I mean, I did not see the mechanical rust monster like coming out of nowhere. Like I had a panic moment until I realized I was playing a monk, so it was fine. So yeah, that was great. I'm very curious about the like anxiety porcupine. I want to play
Anxiety porcupine.
Yeah.
Yeah. And finally, what about you, Gabrielle? This was your adventure.
Oh, this was so much fun. I was hoping that the oxymoron of the Clockwork Rust monster would get exactly the reaction it got. That made me so happy. This is very much the tone of the book. There are a lot of serious feelings moments, but there's also just a lot of weird. You know, the main character is a gnome whose big thing is she craves new experiences, and those aren't always positive. And you know, she deconstructs the obvious, and yeah, the Clockwork Cathedral is a fascinating place. There's maybe a page and a half of it written in Paizo's literature, and no photos. I mean, obviously no photos, no drawings. So it was my playground, and I got to invent canon with it, and I had a blast. And I had actually said early on in the process, this seems like such a fun place for a dungeon crawl. And my editors had said, well, there are a lot of secrets there that we can't reveal. And I said, I don't mean anything about the secrets. I just mean the whole inhospitability of it is just fascinating.
Right.
And yeah, several places in the book, people say, why is this place even here? Like, this is nuts. So I wanted to capture that spirit and just be wacky and have fun. And this was terrific. Thank you all.
Well, I mean, that ties into my stars too, which is just, it's a fun, and I love myself. I'm a big fan of like strange mechanical, you know, like clockwork things, you know, like to pull from the, you know, a different company's lore, like Modrons are my jam, you know, right? The whole weird mechanical creatures to like, and so like just getting to play and like the way you described in the, so for, you know, so you guys, the rest of you players don't know this, but there's all of those encounters were like listed in kind of in like a, you know, a series of possible encounters that I kind of like, we you know, like
random events table, yay.
Yeah, right. And that's why you ended up doing all of them in some form or another. But there's just so much fun stuff to work with there, right? It's like there's all of these just like bizarre and unusual, kind of wondrous, weird things, which is just, I love. That's my favorite thing is weird stuff.
Yeah.
So that was
one of the failed inventions in the book is an orb that's supposed to detect magic, but it doesn't work because it always detects itself.
It's like, yes, there's something magical here. Me.
And
me,
it was just,
me.
It's a lot of fun to play with ineptitude and inexperience. And even in the book, Zay and Karen go to the city to further their education, and they get caught up in this plot, and then they have to basically prove to Karen's superiors that they are wise and experienced enough to be let in on what's happening, because the bad guys have already thrown them into the middle of it. So I like playing with characters that aren't perfectly well trained or perfect at things, and just let that imperfection be part of the fun.
Yeah, no, I could see that for sure. I also, just in the future, my wish would be, I want to know more about Apple Slayer, but next time.
He's in the book, and there's a short story that's free on Paizo's website, and he actually did get his name from devouring a basket of apples and leaving apple detritus all over Karen's kitchen.
There you go, Apple Slayer. I love it. I might name my next dog Apple Slayer. I love it. So, all right. So that's it for tonight. Just for anyone watching at home, or if you're watching this on YouTube before whatever that is, June 4th. Next week we are going to have like a round table. We'll have Linda will join us. She's our final player who couldn't come tonight. But so the five of us will discuss. We'll talk a little bit about what games we're working on. How we thought the season went. We'll talk a little bit about our creative process. I'll have a few questions, and we'll talk about what's next for each of us as well. And that will end season 1 of Sigil Spotlight. So thanks for joining us, and I hope you all have a good night.